My name is Xie Qinghuai. On the first day of my rebirth, I woke up in that all-too-familiar senior year classroom in the top right corner of the blackboard. The college entrance exam countdown read 98 days. While chalk dust danced in the afternoon sunlight, the girl sharing my desk was quietly reciting English vocabulary, while Wenwen in the front row leaned sideways, passing a note to Chuanan across the aisle. Everything was exactly the same as in my previous life except me, Xie Qinghuai. Do you understand this question? Chuanan turned her head, her ponytail swinging gracefully, her voice sweet to the point of being cloying. I didn't get it when Wenwen explained it, but you make it so clear. As she spoke, her eyes didn't meet mine but glanced toward Wenwen. In my previous life, I would immediately put down the exercises I was working on, take the exam paper, and explain the problem to her in great detail. Meanwhile, Wenwen would watch from the side, his eyes filled with that proud look. Then Chuanan would nod half understandingly, and when Wenwen asked her, "Do you get it?" she would say softly, "I'm still a bit confused." So Wenwen would take over and explain it again in a simpler way, usually making it even more confusing. In the end, they would discuss the problem for half a class, while I felt like an outsider. "No," I said without looking up, my pen moving across the comprehensive science paper. "Just read the solution yourself." Chuanan was stunned. Wenwen turned his head, his brow furrowed. "Xie Qinghuai, what's going on?" "Anan is asking you a question." The tip of the pen paused. I looked up at this familiar face. 18-year-old Wenwen had a neat haircut, wore his school uniform properly, and his eyes still carried the unique vitality of a young man. I once thought this face would accompany me for a lifetime, until he pressed the accelerator at the cliff's edge, until the icy lake water filled the car, until my daughter's little hand gradually lost warmth in my palm. "I'm reviewing," I said, my voice calm, which even surprised myself. "I don't have time, you." When Wen's expression changed, Chuanan quickly grabbed his sleeve, her voice low but just loud enough for me to hear. "Forget it, Wenwen, Xie Qinghuai might be in a bad mood. Let's not disturb her." How thoughtful, how understanding. In my previous life, I was fooled by her act for 3 years, thinking she was a delicate flower that needed protection until she grabbed Wenwen's hand before the college entrance exam, tearfully saying, "My parents said if I don't get into college, they won't let me continue my studies. Wenwen, please help me." And until she encouraged Wenwen to pass her answers during the exam. "Anan, you're just too kind." Wenwen patted her hand, turned back, and glared at me. "Some people, no matter how much they read, what's the use if they lack human warmth?" I didn't respond. The tip of the pen continued to move across the paper. Mechanical formulas, chemical reaction equations, genetic diagrams, many key points have become hazy. A decade in the workforce has long since erased any high school knowledge from my mind. I have to start from scratch. Time is running out. The hushed whispers of Chuanan and Wenwen drifted over from the aisle, punctuated by occasional soft laughter. They were passing notes, and I didn't need to read them to know the content. It was just them making fun of me, the bookworm who only knows how to study. In my past life, I would have been hurt and resentful, unable to stop myself from confronting Wenwen about it. This life, I turned over a page of the exam paper. Let them be. The classroom instantly became noisy when the school bell rang. "Anan, how about going to that new bubble tea shop tonight?" Wenwen asked while packing her backpack. "I heard their taro balls are really delicious." "Sure." Chuanan's eyes lit up, then dimmed again. "But my parents signed me up for a tutoring class." In the evening, another tutoring session. "You've lost weight," Wenwen said with concern, then turned to me. "Xie Qinghuai, can you lend in your notes to photocopy?" She didn't have time to take notes today. In my previous life, I would have handed over the entire notebook without a second thought, but this time, I zipped up my backpack and said, "No." "Why?" Wenwen's voice rose. "Are you being so stingy?" "My notes. I can lend them if I want to, and I don't have to if I don't want to." I stood up. "Which law says I must lend my notes to classmates?" Wenwen was left speechless, his face turning red. A few classmates who hadn't left yet glanced over, their eyes filled with curiosity. Chuanan's eyes welled up at just the right moment. "Wenwen, don't be like that. Xie Qinghuai must have her reasons. It's my fault. I'm always bothering you all." "What fault of yours?" Wenwen said, protective as a mother hen. "Shouldn't classmates help each other? Some people are just selfish." I couldn't be bothered to argue anymore. I slung my backpack over my shoulder and walked out of the classroom. The setting sun painted the corridor in shades of orange. The sound of a basketball bouncing echoed through the stairwell, and a group of boys ran down, arms slung over each other's shoulders, discussing tonight's game update. The world at 17. I once thought everything here was pure and beautiful, until reality slapped me awake. "Xie Qinghuai," Wenwen caught up with me at the stair. landing, blocking my way. Chuanan followed behind him, looking like she wanted to say something but hesitated. Let's talk, Wenwen said, his tone stiff. About what? What's going on with you lately? He asked, staring at me. You've been acting strange since last week, treating Inan poorly, and giving me the cold shoulder. What did I do to offend you? I looked at him, the boy I grew up with. We climbed the pagoda trees in our hometown together, fished in the river, and counted stars in the courtyard on summer nights. He once used his hard-earned pocket money to buy me a birthday gift, climbed over the wall to get medicine for me when I had a fever, and vowed solemnly, Xie Qinghuai, I will be good to you for the rest of my life. Then he pressed the accelerator at the edge of the cliff, taking me and our daughter to our deaths. You haven't offended me, I said. I just realized that since it's senior year, I should focus my time on what really matters. So you're saying talking to Inan isn't important, helping me with my studies isn't important. Wenwen laughed in anger. Xie Qinghuai, I never expected you to be this kind of person. Where has the kind and considerate you gone? Kind and considerate, what a nice word. In my past life, I was too kind and considerate, enduring silently when he flirted with Chuanan, pleading desperately when he decided to help her cheat, moved to tears when he proposed, and agreeing without hesitation when he suggested a family road trip. The consequence of kindness and consideration was perishing at the bottom of a cliff. People change, I said, walking past him. Move aside, I'm going home. Xie Qinghuai, Wenwen grabbed my wrist. Explain yourself. His grip was so strong it hurt my wrist. Let go. I won't. You have to. Wenwen. Chuanan ran over, gently pulling on Wenwen's arm. Don't do this. Lots of people are watching. She spoke, but her eyes darted towards me, brimming with a secret satisfaction. Look, he fought with you for me. Look, he chose me in my past life. Such a look cut me to the heart. But now it only amuses me. Wenwen, I slowly withdrew my hand. Think carefully about what you're doing right now. There are only 98 days left until the college entrance exam. What was your rank in the last monthly exam? 57th. And Chuanan, 605th. As for me, I paused, looking him in the eye. I'm ranked 9th in the grade. Wenwen's face paled. Instead of wasting time arguing with me here, you should go back and do a couple more problems. I zipped up my backpack. After all, not everyone can get by on just being clever. I turned around and walked downstairs, not looking back. I knew what Chuanan would say behind my back. Why is she like this? So what if their grades are a bit better? Big deal. Wenwen, don't be upset. She's not worth it. Whatever, the path I'm on has been different from theirs for a long time now. When I got home, my mom was cooking in the kitchen. Back already? Why are you a bit late today? She poked her head out, smiling, still holding a spatula in her hand. Go wash your hands. Dinner will be ready soon. Something came up on the way. I set down my backpack and walked to the kitchen door. My mom was wearing the faded floral apron, and there were a few gray hairs at her temples. In my past life, when I got into Tsinghua University, she was so overjoyed she cried all night long. When I married Wenwen, she gave me all the money she had saved up over half a lifetime as my dowry. Later, when my daughter and I had that accident, her hair turned white overnight. Dad fell ill soon after, and they both passed away within 3 years. Mom, I said softly, I'll get into the best university, make a lot of money, and take you and Dad to live in a big house in Beijing. Mom paused, then laughed. Silly child, what are you talking about? Go wash your hands. The food's about to burn. During dinner, Dad talked about work, while Mom gossiped about the neighbors. An ordinary dinner with an ordinary family of 3. I once thought this kind of ordinary life would last forever. Oh, Xiao Huai, Mom said, placing a spare rib in my bowl. Wenwen's mom called today. She asked if you wanted to sign up for that, Mr. Lu's tutoring class together with Wenwen. She said there's a discount if 2 people register together. My chopsticks froze in midair. What do you say? I said I had to ask you. Mom looked at me. Do you want to sign up? Wenwen really needs to improve his grades, otherwise getting into a tier 1 university is iffy. If you're willing, I'll pay for it. I'm not signing up. I cut her off. I'll study on my own. But Teacher Lu is really good, Dad chimed in. He got 2 students into Tsinghua or Peking University last year. Don't worry about the money. I've got it covered. I watched them, an average working class family, with a combined monthly income of less than 10,000 yuan. My grandmother has been unwell and taking medication for years. In my previous life, my mother worked overtime for a whole month to afford my tutoring classes, and my father drove for Didi after work. As for the Wen family, their father runs a building materials business and struck it rich during the real estate boom a few years back. His mother called, not because she cared about the discount, but because she wanted me. a top 10 student in the grade, to help her son study. No, really, it's fine, I said between mouthfuls of rice. I have my own plan, and I don't want to take extra lessons. With Wenwen, Mom and Dad exchanged a look. Did you have a fight with Wenwen? Mom asked cautiously. No, I put down my bowl. It's just, I think in our final year of high school, it's better for each of us to focus on our own efforts. They didn't ask again, but the worry in their eyes was unmistakable. I knew what they were thinking. Wenwen and I grew up together, and both families had long seen us as a couple. Wenwen's mother even said, once both kids get into university, we'll arrange the marriage. In my previous life, I accepted all of this. This life I finished my meal, stood up to clear the dishes, and said, I'm going back to my room to study. Hey, leave the dishes, I'll wash them. It's okay, it'll be quick. Cold water runs over my fingers, suds pile up on the plates, the sound of a neighbor's TV drifts in through the window, along with the halting notes of a child practicing the piano. The simple, ordinary warmth of daily life. I will hold on to all of this at any cost. For the next month, I immersed myself in a sea of problems. I woke up at 5 a.m. to study English, solved 2 math problems during the 10-minute break, organized my mistakes during lunch break, and continued to work on practice papers at home until midnight. Coffee became a necessity, and dark circles became a permanent feature. Wenwen and Chuanen's relationship became public in the class. They ate together, walked home together, and whispered to each other during breaks. Chuanen would often forget to bring her homework, so Wenwen would let her copy his. The teachers turned a blind eye. It was senior year, and as long as it didn't affect their studies, some things were just too much to manage. Besides, Chuanen knew how to play her cards right. She'd bring the teachers homemade cookies, sweetly say, "You work so hard," and hand the homeroom teacher a box of throat lozenges whenever he coughed. So when she got 5 math assignments in a row completely correct, a stark contrast to her usual performance, the math teacher simply praised her in class, saying, Chuanen has made great progress. I knew she was copying Wenwen's work. Wenwen's homework was copied from mine, not from me in this life, but from me in my previous life. Before being reborn, Xie Qinghuai would take photos of his organized notes and send them to Wenwen after evening self-study every day. On weekends, he would photocopy a copy of his summarized problem-solving analyses for him. Relying on these, Wenwen's ranking climbed from over 200th in the grade to around 150th, and then further into the top 60. I no longer provide him with any materials, yet Chuanen's assignments are still all correct. The answer is only one. Wenwen has also been reborn. He remembers the notes I gave him in my previous life and the solutions to those problems, so he can continue to tutor Chuanen and keep playing the role of the all-powerful top student boyfriend in front of her. I put down my pen and rubbed my sore wrist. The classroom was quiet. Most of the students had gone to eat, leaving Wenwen and Chuanen's seats empty. A few textbooks lay open on their desks. I stood up and walked over. Chuanen's math workbook was open. On the latest page, the solution to a major problem was neatly and clearly written out, using the simplified method I had devised in my past life. It saved 2 steps compared to the conventional method taught by the teacher. A corner of Wenwen's notebook peeked out from the drawer. I pulled it out and opened it. The handwriting was familiar, but the content, it was completely beyond his current level. Inside were summarized high-frequency exam topics and breakthrough strategies for several final, challenging problems, all things I had spent a full 3 months compiling in my previous life. I closed the notebook and put it back in its place. So Wenwen really was reborn. He came back with memories of his past life, remembering all the materials I gave him, the college entrance exam questions, and Chuanen's fate. But he still chose Chuanen. He even went public with their relationship earlier, distanced himself from me more obviously, and went out of his way to put me down in front of our classmates. Xie Qinghuai, what are you doing here? When Wen's voice came from the doorway, I turned around, and he was holding 2 cups of milk tea in his hand. Chuanen followed behind him, holding a bread, looking for something. I walked back to my seat calmly. My pen fell. Really? Wenwen walked over, glanced at his drawer, then at me. Xie Qinghuai, I'm warning you, don't touch my stuff. What's so interesting about your stuff? I sat down, opened my physics paper, and started working on the problems. It's not like it's precious or anything. Chuanen walked over, her voice soft. Wenwen, don't be so harsh. Xie Qinghuai might really just be looking for a pen in someone else's drawer. Wenwen snorted, some people are just full of tricks. I didn't respond and continued working on my problems. Chuanen sat down next to Wenwen, taking small, delicate bites of her bread. The sound of her sipping milk tea through the straw was especially clear in the quiet classroom. Oh, By the way, Anan, Wenwen said suddenly, the homeroom teacher wants me to join the math competition next month. I'm not going. It's a waste of time. I'd rather spend more time with you. The math competition. My pen tip paused in her previous life. Wenwen did indeed turn down the opportunity to compete, because Chuanan said, the competition requires a month-long training camp, and I won't be able to see you for a whole month. I'll miss you so much I'll cry. So he gave it up, even though a good ranking in that competition could have guaranteed him a spot at Tsinghua University and this life competition. Chuanan blinked. Sounds so impressive, but do you really have to train for a whole month? Yeah, it's a closed training camp. You can't even go home on weekends, Wenwen said. I'm not going. Spending time with Myanan is more important. Chuanan smiled, her cheeks flushing slightly. Did you tell the teacher? Already did, Wenwen said, taking a sip of her milk tea. It's not like I'm guaranteed to win a prize anyway. No point. I closed the test paper and stood up. Where are you going? Wenwen asked. The office, I said, to ask about a problem. As I left the classroom, I heard Chuanan whisper, she's always alone. It's kind of sad. Wenwen's reply was cut off by the closing door. The corridor was empty, the office was on the 5th floor, and I climbed step by step, my footsteps echoing in the stairwell. The door to the math office was slightly ajar, and the voices of teachers could be heard inside. I knocked on the door. Come in. Pushing the door open, I saw our homeroom teacher, Mr. Chen, grading papers, while the math teacher, Mr. Li, was making tea nearby. Tsinghua. Mr. Chen looked up. What is it? Mr. Chen, I'd like to sign up for the math competition. The office fell silent for a moment. Ms. Li was the first to react. You want to sign up for the competition, Xie Tsinghua? That's a rather sudden decision. The training camp is intense and will take up a lot of your revision time. What if you don't place? I know, I said, but I want to give it a shot. Old Chen put down his red pen and looked me over. What made you change your mind all of a sudden, when I asked you before? You said you wanted to focus on preparing for the Gaokao. I did say that in my past life, because Wenwen wasn't participating, and I didn't want to go alone. I want to challenge myself, I said, standing up straight. Besides, if I can place well, it would also help with my college entrance exams. The two teachers exchanged a glance. You know, our school only has 2 recommendation spots, said Old Chen. One of them was originally meant for Wenwen. He has some very novel approaches to math problems, a real talent for competition-level questions, but he came to see me during the break just now and said he doesn't want to participate, just as I thought. So there's an opening now. I chimed in. Sir, please let me give it a shot. I promise it won't interfere with my regular studies. For every test during the training camp, if my rank ever falls out of the top 50 in the grade, I'll step down immediately. I was making some pretty bold promises, but I had to fight for it. Old Chen thought for a moment, then looked at Teacher Li. What do you think, Mr. Li? Adjusted his glasses. Xie Qinghuai's math scores have been consistently strong. He got 148 on the last monthly exam, ranking second in his grade. His logical thinking is sound, but his problem-solving approach can be a bit too by the book. He lacks the flexibility needed for competitions. I can practice, I said immediately. The training camp is intense, Mr. Li said, looking at me. From 6 in the morning until 10 at night, it's nothing but solving problems, with breaks only for eating and sleeping. The coaches for the competition class are very demanding, so the pressure will be significant. I'm not afraid. The office fell silent again for a few seconds. Old Chen finally nodded. All right, the spot is yours, but Tsinghua, remember what you said. If it affects your regular studies, you must drop out immediately. Thank you, sir. The competition training camp was held in the provincial capital, bringing together the top students from all the key high schools in the city. The dorm rooms are shared by 4 people, and my roommates came from 3 different schools. On the first night, everyone was still a bit reserved. After brief self-introductions, we all read our own books, but being 17 or 18 years old, we warmed up to each other pretty quickly. Xie Qinghuai, which school are you from? Number 1 High. Wow, the cream of the crop. The girl with glasses, Zhou Yu from Experimental High School, said, you must be really good at math. Then, I get by. I said modestly, just getting by. Everyone who makes it here is a genius. Another girl with short hair, Li Wei, said with a laugh. I only got 145 on my last monthly exam, and my teacher tore me a new one. They scolded you for a 145. The third girl, Zhang Xiao, stuck out her tongue. I only got 138. Everyone burst into laughter. The training life was more intense than expected. Wake up at 6:00 a.m. Morning exercise at 6:30, breakfast at 7:00, and classes start at 7:30. There are 2 major morning classes, 3 in the afternoon, and self-study and mock tests in the evening. The instructors are competition coaches invited from the province, and the difficulty of the questions far exceeds the college entrance exam. The first week was a real struggle for me. I hadn't touched some of this material in a decade, and my thinking just couldn't keep pace with the real top students. On the first practice test, I ranked in the lower middle of the pack. Rough, huh? Zhou Yu sighed in our dorm room that evening. I had absolutely no idea how to approach that geometry problem today. Tell me about it, Li Wei said, lying face down on her bed. Makes me feel like everything I learned before was fake math. I stayed silent, going over each mistake in my error notebook. It was 11 at night. My roommates were all asleep, but I was still calculating under the desk lamp. My fingers were stiff, my eyes were sore, and the coffee had lost its flavor. But my mind was clear. I knew this was my only chance. Secure a spot at Tsinghua University, bypassing the college entrance exam, avoiding the questions when one remembered, and any tricks he might have pulled. By the second week, things began to improve, slowly regaining forgotten knowledge points, and gradually building a competitive mindset through intense training. I made rapid progress in the second mock test. By the third week, I had moved into the top 30. The coach started to take notice of me. Xie Qinghuai, your solution to this problem is quite clever. How did you come up with it? Just trial and error, I said. In truth, it was experience accumulated from my past life, a decade in the workforce, where I had done data analysis and worked on algorithm optimization, had left its mark. That logical training was etched into my subconscious. In the fourth week, during the final mock test, I placed fourth. On the night before the training camp ended, the coach announced the official roster for the representative team. 5 people from each city were selected for the national finals, and I was fortunate enough to be chosen. Xie Qinghuai, you did it. Zhou Yu patted my shoulder. I was worried you wouldn't last when you first got here. Just got lucky, I said with a smile. It wasn't luck, it was the effort of sleeping only 4 hours a day, the persistence of filling 30 notebooks, and the price of calluses on my fingers, but it was worth it. On the day of the closing ceremony, Lao Chen came to pick me up personally. How was it? He asked. As soon as we met, I made the provincial team, I said. I'm going to Beijing next month for the finals. Old Chen froze for 3 seconds, then slapped his thigh hard. Yes, that's fantastic, Xie Qinghuai, you've made our school proud. On the ride back, he excitedly called the principal to share the good news, then called my parents. I could hear my mother's voice, choked with emotion, on the other end of the line. Really, my daughter is amazing. I looked out the window at the fields on either side of the highway rushing past. What was I doing at this time in my previous life? Oh, I was persuading Wenwen not to help Chuanan cheat, staying up late to organize review materials for him, secretly crying because he and Chuanan were getting closer. Stupid. As the car entered the city, familiar streets came into view. Passing by the school, it was just the time when students were leaving in droves. I spotted Wenwen and Chuanan in the crowd. They were holding hands. Chuanan was looking up, saying something, while Wenwen looked down with a smile. The setting sun cast a golden halo around them, making them look so youthful and perfect. Then Wenwen looked up and saw me in the car. He froze. Chuanan turned to look in his direction, her smile freezing on her face. Lao Chen parked the car by the roadside, rolled down the window, and said, Wenwen, perfect timing, I have some great news for you. Xie Qinghuai made it into the provincial team and will be heading to Beijing next month for the national finals. When Wen's face gradually turned pale. Really? Chuanan spoke up first, her voice still sweet. Xie Qinghuai, you're amazing. I didn't say a word. Old Chen continued excitedly. If you win an award in the finals, you might even have a shot at guaranteed admission to Tsinghua. Wen, if only you hadn't given up back then, Mr. Chen. Wen cut him off, his voice flat. Congratulations to Xie Qinghuai. We have to go. He took Chuanan's hand, turned, and walked away briskly. Old Chen shook his head. This child, their grades have been dropping sharply recently. Last month's exam fell below the 200th place, and Chuanan did even worse, ranking in the 700s. I have no idea what the 2 kids are doing every day. The car started again. I looked away. What are they doing? They were reveling in the prophet's advantage of rebirth, smugly relying on their memory of the college entrance exam questions, and mocking me as that bookworm who only knows how to study. Unfortunately, their advantage was about to become useless very soon. When I got home, Mom and Dad had prepared a whole table of dishes. Xiao Huai, you've lost weight, Mom said, touching my face. Was the training camp very tough? Not bad. I shoveled food into my mouth, thinking how a million times better home-cooked meals were compared to the training camp cafeteria. Dad opened a bottle of Coke. My daughter is amazing, cheers. The simple celebration made my eyes well up. In my previous life, when I received the admission notice from Tsinghua University, they were just as happy. Dad got drunk and held my hand, saying, "My girl is doing great," while Mom laughed and wiped away tears. After my accident, their hair turned white overnight. Not in this lifetime. Oh, Xiaohui, Mom said suddenly. Wenwen's mother came by this afternoon. I paused, chopsticks in hand, instantly on alert. What did she want? Mrs. Wen said Wenwen's grades have been slipping badly lately, and she was hoping you might have some time to tutor him. Mom looked at me cautiously. I told her you were preparing for a competition and didn't have the time. She didn't look too pleased and said something like, "The two kids used to be so close. How did they grow so distant? Next time she comes, just tell her I'm busy." I put down my bowl. Mom, Dad, Wenwen and I are not going to happen. Please stop trying to set us up. Mom opened her mouth to say something, but in the end just sighed. All right, I understand. Dad patted my shoulder. It's your life, your decision. I support you, son. Thanks, Dad. After dinner, I went back to my room to organize my competition materials, and my phone vibrated with a message from Wenwen. "Xie Qinghuai, let's talk." I deleted the message. A few minutes later, another message came. "I know you've also been reborn." Then came the third message. "Meet me tomorrow after school at the small woods on the east side of the playground. If you don't show up, I'll tell everyone about this." I stared at those words for a long time, then I replied, "Okay." The evening of the next day, the small woods to the east of the playground. This is the school's lover's haven, but there's hardly anyone around at this time. Wenwen was already there, leaning against the tree trunk, kicking a pebble with his head down. Hearing footsteps, he looked up. It had been a month since I last saw him, and he looked more haggard. His dark circles were heavy, his school uniform was wrinkled, and his hair was unkempt. "You're here," he said. "Spit it out," I said, stopping 3 meters away from him. Wenwen stared at me, his expression complicated. "You really have been reborn, haven't you? When did it start? Is that any of your business?" "It is." He took a step forward. "Xie Qinghuai, since we've both come back, can we talk properly? In our past life, in our past life, you killed me." I cut him off. "And you killed our daughter." Wenwen's face instantly turned deathly pale. I didn't think about that at the time," he stammered, "and died so tragically. I couldn't accept it. So you dragged me and our daughter down with you." I sneered. Wenwen, your logic is really something. You can't accept An's death. But what about me and our daughter? Are we just supposed to suffer? I know I was wrong. Wenwen raised his voice. "I'll change this time. I'll make it up to you. Okay, let's start over. Just like when we were kids. I swear I'll treat you well, and then..." "What?" I asked. "When An shows up again, you'll abandon me once more." Wenwen was stunned. "Haven't you already made your choice in this life?" I looked at him. "Publicly dating Chuanan, distancing yourself from me, belittling me." "Wenwen, how dare you talk about starting over?" "That's because I thought you hadn't been reborn," Wenwen said urgently. "I thought you were still that naive Xie Qinghuai from the previous life. I thought I could ace the college entrance exams with those questions. I thought I could change Chuanan's fate, so you chose Chuanan," I said, without hesitation. Wenwen was left speechless. The wind rustled through the leaves in the woods, while in the distance, the carefree laughter and playful shouts of students filled the air with youthful exuberance. And yet here we stood, discussing a death from a past life. "Xie Qinghuai," Wenwen finally spoke, his voice hoarse. "In this life, I won't let her cheat. I'll make sure she studies hard. I'll help her get into university. Once she's safely past that calamity, I'll break up with her and come back to you." "Why do you think I'll wait for you?" I asked. Wenwen looked at me, her eyes glistening with tears. "Because we have a daughter, Xie Qinghuai. Don't you want to see her again? That little girl with dimples when she smiles, who loves to hug you and call you mommy." Hearing this, my heart gave a sharp tug. Pain. I was in so much pain that I could barely stand. "You're not worthy to mention her." I heard my voice trembling. "Wenwen, you're not fit to be her father. You lost that right the moment you pressed the gas pedal." I was out of my mind. "And now," I pressed, "are you sober now? Is this the choice you make when you're sober?" Wenwen's mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. "I came today just to tell you one thing." I took a deep breath. "Wenwen, in this life, we go our separate ways. You chose Chuanan, and I wish you a long and happy life together, but don't come looking for me again. Don't disturb my life anymore. Otherwise," I paused, "otherwise, I wouldn't mind letting you know that you're not the only one who's been reborn, and what I know is far more than you do. Wen's pupils constricted. What do you mean by that? It means, stay away from me, I said, turning my back. Goodbye. Actually, let's not meet again, Xie Qinghuai, he shouted after me. You'll regret this. Without me, you'll never get into a good university, have you? Forgotten how you begged me to apply to the same school in your last life? I didn't break my stride. I know all the college entrance exam questions from this life. I remember them all. I can get into any university I want. And you can only rely on yourself. You simply can't do it. I continue walking forward. Xie Qinghuai, don't leave. Wouldn't it be better if we cooperated? Together, we can change our fate. Together, the voices carried away by the wind. I didn't look back as I stepped out of the small woods. The sun was sinking behind the distant mountains, painting the sky in a magnificent orange-red, with clouds edged in gold. It was beautiful, so beautiful it made you want to cry, but I didn't cry. I wiped the dampness from the corner of my eye and walked towards the classroom building. There were still many problems to solve, many tasks to complete, no time for tears. Time flew by quickly, and in the end, I successfully secured a guaranteed admission spot at Tsinghua University. At the award ceremony, I stood on the stage, holding my certificate and medal, with flashes of light in front of me and applause ringing in my ears. Lao Chen was waving frantically from the audience, grinning from ear to ear. I looked at the camera and smiled. The photo was published on the front page of the Education Daily the next day, with the caption, Xie Qinghuai, a student from our city's No. 1 high school, wins gold in the National Mathematics Competition, securing a direct admission offer to Tsinghua University. My parents had that newspaper page framed and hung it in the most prominent spot in the living room. My daughter, accepted directly into Tsinghua, Dad would tell everyone he met. Bursting with pride, Mom told me in secret that after seeing the newspaper, Wen's mother went around the neighborhood telling everyone that child Qinghuai grew up with my Wen. They've always been so close. I didn't think much of it even after the early admission process was finalized. I still went to school every day. My homeroom teacher pulled me aside for a talk. Xie Qinghuai, she said, you've already secured your spot. There's no need to push yourself so hard. Relax a little. Enjoy the final stretch of your senior year. Teacher, I want to take the college entrance exam, I said. Why, you've already got Tsinghua in the bag. Just wanted the experience, I said with a smile. After all that preparation, the real reason was, I couldn't let Wen get suspicious if he found out I had a guaranteed admission but still skipped the Gaokao. He'd definitely figure out that I knew the exam questions would change. In that case, he might alter his plans or come up with some other way to help Chuanen. I have to take the Gaokao 1 month before the Gaokao. A rift appeared between Wen and Chuanen. It started with a mock exam. Wen, relying on answers from memory, scored over 600 points, breaking into the top 100 in his grade. Chuanen, however, only scored a little over 700th place, not even reaching the cutoff for undergraduate programs. What happened? I overheard Wen ask in a hushed voice in the restroom. I went over all those problems with you. I forgot. Okay, Chuanen's voice trembled. And you were talking so fast, I couldn't understand a thing. Then memorize the answers. Surely you can do that. There are too many. I can't memorize them all. Chuanen, Wen's voice was filled with anger. How are we supposed to get into the same university like this? I'm sorry, Wen, don't be mad, I promise. I'll do better next time. There won't be a next time. The college entrance exam is in 1 month. Water gushed from the faucet. I finished washing my hands and walked out of the bathroom. My eyes met theirs at the door. Wen's face was ashen, and Chuanen's eyes were red and puffy. What are you looking at? Wen snapped irritably. I ignored them and walked straight away. From the hallway came the sound of Chuanen's quiet sobs and Wen's comforting voice. All right, don't cry. I'll explain it to you one more time, but you have to listen carefully this time. How touching. Sadly, this touching romance would soon become the spark that ignited their mutual resentment. 1 week before the National College Entrance Exam, I did something. I anonymously reported the leak of this year's exam papers to the Education Bureau. I used a computer at an internet cafe, a newly registered email account, and my wording was meticulous. The evidence was solid. I wrote down the previous life's college entrance exam questions from memory and claimed they were obtained through an internal channel. After sending the email, I deleted all records. 3 days later, news spread like wildfire. The college entrance exam questions had been leaked, and a backup paper was likely to be used this time. When the news spread, the whole class was in an uproar. A backup exam? Will that one be harder? Who knows? I heard backup exams are for emergencies. They probably won't be easy. Who would spread such a vicious rumor. Wen's face instantly turned as white as a sheet upon hearing the news. He suddenly turned to look at me. I was quietly reading English with my head down. During the break, he cornered me in the stairwell. "Did you do it, didn't you?" he hissed through gritted teeth. "Xie Qinghuai, you're ruthless." "I don't know what you're talking about," I said. "The alternate paper, you reported the leak." So they switched to the alternate paper. Wen's eyes were bloodshot. "You knew I remembered the questions, so you deliberately." When I interrupted him, "Leaking exam questions is illegal. If someone really remembers the questions, that's called cheating, that's called a crime." He was choked. "And," I said with a smile, "how can you be so sure what you remember is the real exam? What if it's fake?" "Impossible, I remember it perfectly." "Then why are you so nervous?" I asked. "If you're truly capable, what difference does it make which paper you get?" When stared at me, her chest heaving. After a long silence, he managed to say, "Xie Qinghuai, you'll regret this, maybe." I turned and walked downstairs, but at least for now, I don't regret it. The day of the college entrance exam, the weather was beautiful. The area outside the exam hall was packed with parents. My mom insisted on seeing me off, and my dad took the day off to accompany her. "Xiaohuai, don't be nervous. Just do your best." Mom kept rearranging my stationery bag. "I know." I hugged her. "Mom, Dad, you can go back. It's too hot here." "It's okay, we'll wait for you to come out." As I walked into the exam room, I looked back one last time. Mom was wiping away tears, while Dad had his arm around her shoulder, waving to me. I felt a lump in my throat. I found my seat and sat down. The invigilator read out the exam rules, distributed the papers, and broke the seal. As soon as I got the exam paper, I quickly skimmed through it. Sure enough, everything had changed. The question types were completely different from the previous one, but the difficulty was about the same. After all, it was still a college entrance exam paper, so the difference wouldn't be too significant. But Wen probably wouldn't have it easy. I picked up my pen and started answering on the draft paper. Multiple choice questions, fill in the blank questions, and essay questions, one by one, neatly and orderly. All standard solutions were used, with clear steps and rigorous logic, but not a single word was written on the answer sheet. Time ticked away second by second. The candidates around me were furiously writing. The boy in front was trembling with nervousness, and the girl at the back was quietly sobbing, probably stuck on a difficult problem. I was deeply engrossed in my calculations on the scratch paper, completely focused. As I walked out of the exam hall after finishing the last subject, the sunlight was blinding. Mom rushed over and hugged me, asking, "How did it go?" "Pretty good," I said. It really was pretty good. If I had transferred the answers from my rough paper to the answer sheet, I could conservatively estimate a score of 650, but I handed in a blank paper. 3 days later, the post-college entrance exam celebration swept through the entire grade. In the class group, everyone was checking answers, with some cheering and others lamenting. Wen was very active in the group, confidently claiming that she exceeded expectations and was a sure bet for Tsinghua or Peking University. Chuanan chimed in, "Wen, you're so amazing. I think I did pretty well too." I chuckled to myself. The questions this time were completely different from the previous life. Wen was so confident, it seemed he hadn't even looked at the questions carefully and was writing answers from the previous year's college entrance exam. A week later, the results were announced. On the day we checked the scores, our family was very calm. Mom made a few dishes. Dad opened a bottle of beer. "No matter what score she gets, my daughter is the best." I entered my admission ticket number and clicked the query button. The page refreshed. Total score, 0. All subjects, 0. What is going on? Mom came over, stunned. "Must be a system error." Dad took out his phone. "I'll call the homeroom teacher to ask." "Dad, don't call." I stopped him. "I didn't fill out the answer sheet." The air fell silent. 2 pairs of eyes stared at me, filled with shock and confusion. "Why?" Mom's voice trembled. "Xiaohuai, why would you?" "I got a direct admission offer," I said. "I don't need the Gaokao score." But, Mom, Dad, trust me." I took their hands. "I have my reasons for doing this. In time, you'll understand." They fell silent. After a long pause, Dad sighed. "All right, you've grown up and have your own ideas. I won't ask any more." Mom wiped her eyes. "As long as you're happy." I hugged them, my eyes welling up. "I'm sorry, I can't tell you yet, but soon enough, you'll understand." Not long after, the Education Bureau issued a notice. Several cheating cases involving multiple students were discovered during this year's National College Entrance Exam. An investigation revealed that some individuals had obtained so-called exam papers through illegal channels before the test and shared answers during the exam. The scores of the implicated students have now been invalidated, and they are being dealt with according to the law and regulations. The names Wenwen and Chuanan were prominently featured on the list. The class group chat went absolutely wild. Wenwen cheated, Chuanan too. No wonder their grades have been skyrocketing lately. That's so disgusting. Wenwen left the group. Chuanan left too. That afternoon, Wenwen's mother stormed into my house. Xie Qinghuai, was it you who reported it? Her eyes were red and swollen, her voice shrill. Was it you who got my Wenwen in trouble? My mother stepped in front of me, trying to mediate. Mrs. Wenwen, please calm down. Calm down. How can I calm down? My son's future is ruined. He can't take the college entrance exam for 3 years. It's all Xie Qinghuai's fault. She pointed her finger right in my face, screaming, just because you did poorly, you can't stand to see others succeed. Is that it? What a vicious child you are, Mrs. Wenwen. I spoke up, my voice steady. Wenwen chose to cheat. I didn't force him to buy the answers. And I didn't force him to pass them to Chuanan. She was momentarily speechless. Then her anger flared even hotter. Then why didn't you stop him? You grew up together. How could you just stand by and watch him throw himself into the fire? I tried to warn him, I said. In my last life. Everyone was stunned into silence. What nonsense are you spouting? Wenwen's mother shrieked. I said, I tried to warn him in my last life. I looked her in the eye. I warned him not to help Chuanan cheat, not to ruin his own life. He listened. Chuanan failed her university entrance exams, married someone else, and was beaten to death by her husband. But Wenwen ended up hating me with every fiber of his being, for trying to stop him, for what he saw as my role in Chuanan's death. The air was deathly still. Mom and Dad stared at me in shock. Wenwen's mother's face alternated between red and white. You're crazy. So in this life, I didn't try to stop him. I continued. I watched him buy the answers, pass them on, and destroy himself. But what does that have to do with me? Isn't this the ending he wanted? Crazy, you're crazy. Wenwen's mother staggered back, hitting the door frame. Go back and tell Wenwen, I said. This life, I'm even with him. The door slammed shut. Mother collapsed onto the sofa, her face pale. Xiaohuai, what you just said, is it true? I walked over, knelt before her, and took her hand. Mom, Dad, I'm sorry for keeping this from you all this time, I said, my voice choked with emotion. But what I'm saying is true. In my past life, I died. And you both, in this life, I just want to protect you, to protect our family. Dad's hand was trembling. After a long moment, he pulled me up and held me tight. Don't be afraid, Xiaohuai, don't be afraid. Your dad is here in this life. I'll protect you. Mom hugged us tightly, crying so hard she couldn't speak. That night, the three of us talked late into the night. I confessed everything about my past life. From Wenwen and Chuanan's betrayal to my death and rebirth. Mom fainted twice from crying, while Dad chain-smoked one cigarette after another, but in the end, they accepted it. No wonder you've changed so suddenly. Mom caressed my face. My poor dear, you've been through so much. Not this time. I held her hand. This time, we'll all be fine. Yes, fine. The news about Wenwen and Chuanan spread like wildfire in the neighborhood. Wenwen's mother stopped going out. Wenwen's father shut down his business. And he spent all day at home throwing temper tantrums. It said that Wenwen locked herself in her room and refused to eat or drink. The situation at Chuanan's home is even worse. Her parents were ordinary workers who had hoped their daughter would change their fate by getting into university. Now that hope is shattered, and they have to face the gossip of their neighbors. Chuanan's mother was so upset that she was hospitalized, but none of this concerns me anymore. I've been busy preparing my admission materials for Tsinghua University, spending time with my parents, and enjoying the first truly relaxing summer after my rebirth. It wasn't until that day that Chuanan came to my door. She had lost a lot of weight, her eyes were swollen, her hair was messy, and she was wearing a faded t-shirt, looking utterly pitiful. Xie Qinghuai, she cried as soon as she spoke. I beg you, help Wenwen. I stood in the doorway and didn't let her in. He cheated on the college entrance exam. Having his scores revoked is only fair, I said. I can't help. Yes, you can, Chu. And then grabbed my hand. Go tell the Education Bureau. Tell them you were the one who gave the answers to Wenwen and forced him to pass them to me. You're a recommended admission student. They'll believe you. I pulled my hand back and looked at her. Chuanan, what makes you think I would lie for you? Because you two were so close before, she sobbed, tears streaming down her face like rain on pear blossoms. Xie Qinghuai, I know I wronged you. I shouldn't have taken Wenwen from you, but you can't be this cruel. You've ruined our entire lives. You ruined your own lives. I said, not me, but if you had warned us back then. I did warn you. I cut her off. In our past life, Chuanan was stunned. In my previous life, I advised Wenwen not to help you cheat, and he listened. You didn't get into college, married a small-time hoodlum, and died from domestic abuse, I said, word by word. Then Wenwen hated me. Hated me for why I had to advise him, so he killed me. And my daughter, making us pay for it. Chuanan's face instantly lost all color. This time, I didn't advise. I smiled. I watched you jump into the fire pit. Chuanan, you're right. I am indeed ruthless. But compared to Wenwen, I'm still far behind. She took 2 steps back, her eyes filled with terror. You're also reborn, so, don't come looking for me again. I closed the door. Otherwise, I wouldn't mind making your lives even worse. A muffled sob came from outside, then footsteps gradually faded away. I leaned against the door, taking a deep breath. It's over, it's all over. Before Tsinghua University started, I went back to my old school to take care of some final paperwork in the homeroom teacher's office. Old Chen looked at me, as if he had something to say but couldn't bring himself to say it. Just tell me what's on your mind, teacher. I spoke up first. Wenwen has dropped out, Old Chen sighed. His parents enrolled him in a technical school to learn auto repair. As for Chuanan, I heard she had a falling out with her family and ran off to find work down south. I nodded. Xie Qinghuai, Old Chen said, looking at me earnestly. I don't know what you've been through, but I know you're not a bad kid. What happened with Wenwen and Chuanan, that was their choice. Don't take it too hard on yourself. I understand. Thank you, teacher. After completing the procedures, I walked out of the teaching building. The campus was empty. As summer vacation hadn't ended yet, a few students were playing basketball on the court, and the cicadas were chirping louder and louder. I stopped in front of the bulletin board. The honor roll still displays last year's admission list, with my name at the top, Xie Qinghuai, Tsinghua University. The next line should have been Wenwen's name, but now it's empty. In my previous life, it read, Wenwen, Peking University. In this life alone, everything is gone, Xie Qinghuai. A voice came from behind. I turned around. Wenwen stood there, thinner than the last time we met, with deep-set eyes, a scruffy beard, wearing ill-fitting overalls, and smelling of oil. What's up? I asked. I'm going to technical school, he said, leaving next month. Oh, Chuanan went to work at an electronics factory, he said, pulling a face. She came to see me before she left, apologizing to me, saying she actually knew those answers were unreliable a long time ago, but she didn't dare to say anything. I didn't respond. Xie Qinghuai, Wenwen looked at me, his eyes bloodshot. In this lifetime, I was wrong, wasn't I? Does it matter? I asked. It does, he said. I want to know, if I had chosen you in this life, would the ending have been different? I thought for a moment and shook my head. No, why not? Because you never truly loved me, I said. Wenwen, what you loved was just the version of Xie Qinghuai who always followed you and supported you unconditionally. The moment I started having my own thoughts, the moment I stopped revolving around you, you felt I had changed, that I was no longer lovable. Wenwen's mouth opened, but no sound came out. Chuanan is the same, I continued. You love the Chuanan who needs your protection and adores you. Once she truly relies on you and becomes a burden, you'll grow tired of her. It was like that in your previous life, and it is the same in this one. I didn't. You did. I interrupted him. In this life, when you were reborn, the first thing you did was to seek out Chuanan, distancing yourself from me and belittling me, because deep down, you know that Chuanan is easier to control and fits better with your image of the perfect girlfriend. As for me, I've already seen your ugliest side and won't blindly adore you anymore. Wenwen's shoulders slumped. After a long pause, he said, you're right, so, don't come looking for me again. I turned around. Learn a skill, live a good life. We're no longer connected, Xie Qinghuai, he called out from behind. I stopped, but didn't look back. I'm sorry, he said. Really? I didn't respond, just kept walking. The sun was scorching, its heat burning my skin. Amidst the cicadas' drone, I walked out of the school gates and never looked back. In this life, I'll live it well, for my own sake and for all that was lost. Story 2, the day I confirmed my pregnancy. He Mingli's first love suffered her third miscarriage and lost the ability to conceive. She sent He Mingli one final message before turning on the gas that night to end her life. From then on, He Mingli despised me. If you hadn't flaunted your pregnancy to Ranran, she wouldn't have left me. Murderer, how dare you live happily after what you've done? So he tormented me in every way possible, schemed against my entire family, and worked me to death. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the day He Mingli proposed to me. This time, I spotted Yi Qingran touching her belly nearby and pulled her over. He Mingli, Ranran's pregnant. Since you love her so much, you wouldn't mind playing daddy, would you? I was reborn on the day He Mingli proposed to me. There he stood, watching me from within a circle of red roses and candles. No amount of festive atmosphere could mask the impatience in his eyes. Dragged downstairs by my roommate, I couldn't be bothered to pretend anymore and yanked the onlooking Yi Qingran over. He Mingli's gaze turned ice cold as he stared fixedly at me. Ruan Jing, what nonsense is this now? I've already proposed as you demanded. What more could you possibly want? I shook my head. You only proposed under family pressure. That's not what I want. All these years, I've seen the truth. You truly love Ran Ran. Since that's the case, I'll step aside for you. Yi Qingran stood nearby, eyeing me with suspicion. He Mingli froze momentarily before grabbing my wrist in a death grip. With all these people watching, you're determined to humiliate me, aren't you? Honestly, this guy can't tell. Constructive criticism from baseless attacks fighting back nausea. I mustered my most sincere expression and pushed Yi Qingran into He Mingli's arms. You two are literally made for each other. I'd never stand in the way of true love. He Mingli gave me a hesitant look, and I thumped my chest reassuringly. Don't worry, I'll talk to your parents. Won't put you in an awkward spot. The crowd froze momentarily before joining my applause and resuming their cheerful uproar. A proposal's a proposal. Just swapping the recipient doesn't change what it fundamentally is. As the crowd dispersed, He Mingli finally noticed Yi Qingran's slightly rounded belly and completely lost his composure. He guided Yi Qingran to sit on a nearby stone bench, then grabbed my forearm and demanded answers. What nonsense are you spouting? There's no way Ran Ran could be pregnant. Of course I couldn't tell him that in our past life, Yi Qingran had gotten pregnant right before graduation. In the end, they even blamed me for her first miscarriage, claiming she wouldn't have had the accident if she hadn't rushed to cheer me on at my competition. Furious, He Mingli pulled strings to revoke my overseas study opportunity on the spot. I casually covered with, my mom has a friend in obstetrics who happened to see Yi Qingran getting examined. He Mingli's fury intensified. So you knew she was pregnant, yet you still made me. In front of all those people tonight, He hesitated for a long moment without speaking. Feigning surprise, I said, you claim to love her so much, even swore before both our families at that banquet that you'd marry no one else. What? Having second thoughts now, I smirked disdainfully. He Mingli, your so-called true love is utterly unreliable. He Mingli choked on my words, his neck craning as he struggled to retort. Yi Qingran tiptoed in behind them. Please stop arguing. She placed a hand on her belly. This is all my fault. I was foolish to trust the wrong person. The doctor said my health is critical. Terminating the pregnancy could be life-threatening. He Mingli had never been able to bear seeing her teary-eyed like this since childhood, and immediately pulled Yi Qingran into a comforting embrace. Don't worry, Ran Ran, I'll definitely help you track down that bastard. The child was fathered by Yi Qingran's mixed-race boyfriend whom she met while studying abroad years ago, but now, the man has gone missing. Yi Qingran clutched He Mingli's sleeve tightly. Stop looking for him. I don't want him anymore. I chuckled. Can't fight, can't track them down. So what's your brilliant plan? Yi Qingran stayed silent, pressing herself tightly against He Mingli. I don't know. I was conned out of money and dignity. I've got nothing left, just you two now. As I remained silent, He Mingli gritted his teeth and declared, don't worry, Ran Ran, for the bond we've shared since childhood, I'll claim responsibility for the child you're carrying. Fantastic. That's exactly what I've been waiting to hear. Very few people knew about Yi Qingran's pregnancy. She took an extended leave from school. He Mingli specially arranged a 3-bedroom apartment for her recuperation. After seeing Yi Qingran off, He Mingli turned and stopped me, eyes wide with disbelief. Why are you reacting like this? I forced a professional smile. Watching you and Yi Qingran overcome all odds to be together, I'm genuinely happy for you. He Mingli looked even more agitated, clearly displeased with my remark. In our past life, we were brought together by an arranged marriage between our families. Meanwhile, Yi Qingran married without hesitation the biracial man she'd always dreamed of. Little did she know that after marriage, her husband would frequently bring his mistresses home. The constant emotional turmoil caused Yi Qingran to suffer multiple miscarriages. When she had her 3rd miscarriage due to domestic violence, I happened to find out I was pregnant. Worried about upsetting her, I kept it quiet and only shared the news with He Mingli over the phone. But when He Mingli's mother found out, word of my pregnancy eventually reached Yi Qingran. Yi Qingran felt this was the ultimate malice and humiliation. That night, she texted He Mingli, I hope in our next life, you'll be the one who stays with me till the end. Then she turned on the gas in the kitchen. The medical team couldn't save her. He Mingli went berserk, causing a scene at the hospital before storming into my home and smashing everything in sight. He called me a murderer, claiming I'd provoked his beloved Ran Ran and made him lose his love forever. Later, my Father's company was maliciously suppressed by their family business, and I suffered for years because of it. At this thought, I clenched my fists, refused to spare Helly another glance, and turned to go upstairs. This time, I'll make sure these two are locked in a bitter struggle. No mercy, no retreat otherwise. How could I ever make up for the agony I endured in my past life with nothing planned for the weekend? My father asked me to come home for dinner, saying the He family was hosting to discuss our arranged marriage. I told my father there was no future between He Mingli and me. He'd already vowed to take care of Yi Qingran for life. This meeting would be the perfect opportunity to settle things face to face. After waiting over half an hour, He Mingli finally arrived at the private dining room under his parents' disappointed gazes. He declared loudly, "I promised to take care of Ranran for life, and I won't go back on my word." His father clutched his chest in fury, completely baffled by his son's thinking. I chuckled inwardly. The real show hadn't even started yet. If the old folks knew He Mingli was about to become an unwitting father, they'd really lose it. My father cleared his throat. "Old He, since things have come to this, let's just call off the engagement between our families. After all, we should respect the youngster's wishes." Everything could have been resolved with a calm talk, but halfway through dinner, Hemingly answered a call and suddenly glared at me. After checking some message on his phone, "Wanjun, so you've been scheming behind my back. You haven't changed a bit, still that same spiteful person." With that roar, he stood up and flung his glass of red wine straight into my face. Caught completely off guard, I choked and coughed violently. My father flew into a rage on the spot, grabbing He Mingli and slapping him across the face. "You damn brat, I practically raised you, and this is how you treat my daughter." And he rushed over. Protectively, shielding her precious son, I wiped my face with a tissue, staring coldly at He Mingli. Trembling with rage, he leaned down and hissed in a voice only we could hear, "I knew it all along. Your phony congratulations for me and Ranran that day were nothing but an act. You're a venomous snake." All smiles to my face, then leaking Ranran's pregnancy behind my back. "So that's what had him fuming," I scoffed. "He Mingli, you've got no right to condemn me without getting your facts straight." With that, I slowly poured the steaming clam chowder over his head like watering a withering plant. Drenched completely, He Mingli stumbled backward. "You'll pay for this." He shoved me aside, grabbed his coat, and stormed out the door. The wooden door swung back with a thunderous bang. The atmosphere in the room turned awkward as other elders tried to smooth things over, but He Mingli's mother began making snide remarks. "I hate to say this, Wanjing, but your temper's getting worse." "What decent girl would throw soup at her future husband?" I replied flatly. "You're mistaken. As I just explained, He Mingli has already pledged himself to Yi Qingran." Clasping her hands, she prattled on, "Actually, I've met that Yi girl, perfect in every way. If their family business hadn't gone bankrupt, you'd never have become our daughter-in-law." My father was absolutely furious and confronted her on the spot. Demanding an explanation, I held my father's hand and fired back with a smile. "Auntie, is being the He family's daughter-in-law some kind of golden ticket? If you look down on me so much, why do you call me a dozen times a day to monitor your son? Doesn't that prove you secretly think he's morally bankrupt and good for nothing?" He Mingli's mother was left speechless, rolling her eyes in rage. "In my past life, it was actually my would-be mother-in-law who spread the news of my pregnancy everywhere while belittling me in front of Yi Qingran. That's what ultimately led to the tragedy." Yet after Yi Qingran's incident, she and her son He Mingli jointly accused me of being shameless and heartless, claiming I'd flaunted my pregnancy to the world without regard for sisterhood. When He Mingli's abuse caused my miscarriage, she screamed that I was worthless, then dug her freshly manicured nails into my face until it turned black and blue right there in the hospital room. Upon closer reflection, it's obvious that any family capable of spoiling someone as arrogant and insufferably patronizing as He Mingli would be a toxic environment. He Mingli took a late-night cab back to campus to console Yi Qingran. He barged into the girls' dorm despite protests. When I reached the floor, he was clutching Yi Qingran protectively while shooting icy glares at everyone present. "One more word against her, and you're challenging the He family. Don't blame me when I make you get expelled." The audacity of this guy. Does he think he owns the university or something? Clutching my sketchpad, I pushed through the crowd and headed back to the dorm. "Folks, just some lunatic having a fit, nothing worth gawking at." The surroundings fell silent instantly, and my three roommates simultaneously gave me thumbs up. He Mingli tightened his grip around Yi Qingran's waist, making her gasp in pain. "What did you say?" He stared at me in disbelief. On his way back to campus, He Mingli called in a rage, swearing he'd hold me accountable if so much as a single hair was out of place on his Ranran. By the time he returned, I burst out laughing, which only made him snarl. "Think I'm joking? If anything happens to Yi Qingran, there's nothing I won't do. Of course, in our past life, he blamed me for Yi Qingran's tragic death and retaliated by setting financial traps that ruined my family's company. My father was coughing up blood in the hospital, yet he meanly forced him to kneel and beg forgiveness on my behalf. Back then, he'd completely forgotten every meal my family provided during his childhood, forgotten how my father treated him like his own son. He meanly, and I locked eyes, the tension between us palpable. Yi Qingran suddenly grabbed my wrist. Xing, no matter how upset you are about Mingli choosing me, you shouldn't spread such rumors. Enough was enough. I stepped away from her. First of all, you know perfectly well whether those pregnancy rumors are true or not. Those crocodile tears only work on He Mingli. Don't think the whole world will indulge you just because you can cry on command. My roommate Xiaolin clapped. Well said. You're my absolute queen. The other girls started whispering too. Exactly. The whole building just saw the pregnancy rumor about her, and she's already wailing like a banshee. I just went out to get a package, accidentally brushed her shoulder, and she coldly accused me of being sent by Ruanjing to harm her, like I could ever defend myself against that. She's acting like the whole world's bullying her when barely anyone even notices her existence. Yi Qingran's face turned deathly pale as she swayed and collapsed backward. He Mingli caught her, glaring at me furiously. Ruanjing, don't think you can act recklessly just because your father backs you up. If you don't apologize to Ranran tonight, don't even think about stepping foot in this house. His words sent an unexpected thrill through me. I stepped closer. He Mingli, barging into the girls' dorm and threatening a young woman, you're the one who should be apologizing. You've completely squandered what little dignity the He family had left. Fuming with rage, He Mingli raised his hand to force my head down in a bow of apology. I gripped his wrist bone tightly, twisted it downward, and slammed him hard onto the ground. These days, I've not only been honing my painting skills but also squeezing in some judo training. Your mother asked me to teach you more at school. Just doing my duty. Trembling with fear, Yi Qingran half-dragged the crimson-faced He Mingli to his feet. The dorm supervisor came brandishing a broom, forcing He Mingli to storm off in a huff. The next day, he pulled strings to trace the IP address behind the pregnancy rumor about Yi Qingran. The source turned out to be Suna, Ye's current scholarship rival. As I went downstairs to take out the trash, I happened to see He Mingli holding Yi Qingran as they cornered Suna, arrogantly demanding she kneel and apologize. A glint of triumph flashed in Yi Qingran's eyes, but she maintained her meek persona, whispering timidly, let it go, Mingli, Nana didn't mean it. She hasn't been giving me much trouble in the dorm lately. Besides, she's close with Ruanjing. Wouldn't this embarrass her? I don't want more drama. The moment those words left her lips, He Mingli's protective instincts surged. I knew Ruanjing's spoiled princess attitude would never let me off the hook. He leaned in and threatened that if Suna didn't kneel immediately, he'd release her old bar hostess photos. He Mingli always resorts to such brute force solutions. Sharing the same dorm, he didn't even consider building goodwill with Yi Qingran. Suna trembled at the words, humiliated beyond measure. She shrieked, if Yi Qingran hadn't pushed me too far by stealing my opportunities again and again, do you think I'd resort to this? With that, she yanked the pencil from her hair and lunged at them. Don't touch Ranran. He Mingli panicked, pulling Yi Qingran into a protective embrace. Meanwhile, having just descended the stairs, I was violently shoved by him directly into the path of the out of control Suna. The sharp pencil tip sliced through the skin of my forearm, beads of blood welling up under Suna's shocked gaze. I took the pencil from her. Report yourself to the counselor for punishment. I'll let this slide for now. As Suna turned to leave, Yi Qingran's eyes blazed as she shouted, she can't go. Mingli, don't you see, they're in this together. If I don't get an explanation today, I won't go on living. That posture made it clear she was pushing Suna to the brink of collapse. She naturally had He Mingli's protection. While I might become the target of Suna's vengeful rage, a calmer Suna nodded at me before going to find the counselor. He Mingli anxiously checked Yi Qingran from head to toe before finally noticing my injury. Sorry, Xing. Rare guilt flashed in his eyes. It was an emergency, and Ranran's condition was special, so I had to use me as a human shield. I glared at him with utter disgust. Did it ever cross your mind that if I hadn't reacted in time, that pencil could have stabbed my eye? He Mingli's Adam's apple bobbed. It's not that serious. Ranran is an art student. Her hands mustn't get injured. The moment he spoke, he'd completely forgotten these hands of mine had been painting since age 7. As I stepped closer, He Mingli protectively shielded Yi Qingran behind him. He Mingli, hold out your hand. I've got something for you. Frowning, he extended his right hand. I took the pencil I was holding and slashed it hard across his palm. What the hell are you doing? Are you insane? Yi Qingran gasped and threw her arms around He Mingli with a radiant smile. I enunciated each word clearly. He Mingli, consider our decade-long friendship, along with that shove you just gave me, squarely returned. Let me wish you and Yi Qingran a lifetime of endless torment. May you be stuck with each other till death do you part. As He Mingli's pupils trembled with shock, I walked away without a care in the world. Before long, Yi Qingran was summoned for skipping classes. Repeatedly, her pregnancy could no longer be kept under wraps. The school initially planned to expel her, but He Mingli smoothed things over with money and a promise to donate a library, barely securing Yi Qingran's diploma. But as the campus whispers grew louder, Yi Qingran became increasingly sensitive. Whenever she saw people huddled together whispering, she assumed they were mocking her. Once when a roommate forgot to greet her in the morning, she lashed out, accusing them of deliberately excluding her. I've been holed up in the studio day and night, pouring my soul into preparations for the upcoming National Ink Painting Competition. The grand prize winner gets to apprentice under a master painter for 6 months, a dream I've nurtured for years. In my previous life, I'd spent half a year preparing for this moment, brimming with confidence. But on competition day, I happened to find Yi Qingran doubled over in excruciating pain beneath the phoenix tree. She clung desperately to my arm, begging me not to abandon her. Despite calling emergency services and alerting teachers for her, she still went around accusing me of leaving her in danger. This time, I won't show an ounce of mercy. Kindness wasted on the unworthy only brings calamity upon yourself. I kept painting until sunset before finally opening the door to head home. A lanky figure suddenly loomed in the doorway, startling me badly. He Mingli, what are you doing here? I eyed him warily. I owe you an apology for misjudging you last time. He insisted on barging into my studio. Save it, this won't be your last apology anyway. He Mingli's gaze faltered, looking genuinely hurt, even without the engagement. There's no need to speak to me like this. Besides, are you really blameless? You knew Ran is pregnant and at her most vulnerable, yet as her friend, you couldn't even stay by her side. Wanjing, when did you become so mercenary? My face was a picture of disgust. Stay out of this. If I stayed by her side, how would that make your grand devotion stand out? I had no time for his nonsense. Get lost. Don't screw up my chance at the award. He Mingli yanked my wrist forcefully. How much could you possibly win from that competition? I'll pay you 50,000. Quit and become Ran's full-time caregiver at Lanyuan Apartments. That competition you're entering is all hype. It's not like there's any urgency. You could go anytime. With a smile, I shook off his grip and said, He Mingli, it's time to drain the water from your brain. On Monday, I arrived at the competition venue ahead of schedule as planned, drawing contestant number 9. The venue was packed. I'd barely steadied myself when a commotion erupted at the entrance. An angry contestant yelled, "What's wrong with these people? Hiring a whole security entourage for a competition?" In my peripheral vision, Yi Qingran entered in an evening gown, encircled by black-suited bodyguards holding hands. He Mingli carefully shielded her advance, draping a cashmere shawl over her shoulders, acting like some A-list celebrity making an entrance. It suddenly occurred to me that Yi Qingran had also signed up for this national painting competition, but seeing her lounging around the apartment all day, being waited on hand and foot while posting glamorous maternity photos, I assumed she'd forgotten all about it. When I went to the restroom and reached for the door, I found it locked from the inside. I thought it was someone's prank, but when I finally managed to climb over the door, I caught a glimpse of a black-clad bodyguard jogging away. Thankfully, it only delayed me by a few minutes. By the time I reached the exhibition stand, Yi Qingran was already holding the microphone and sharing her creative journey. The painting displayed behind her was none other than my freshly completed masterpiece, Dawn. In short, this painting captures the precious moments between me and the most important person in my life, Mr. He. Our love shines as eternally bright as this sunlight. I sneered and cut power to her display screen. Quite the vivid imagination you've got, spinning such elaborate tales about someone else's artwork. Yi Qingran froze, glaring at me with bitter resentment. She clearly hadn't expected me to still be here. Wanjing. He meanly pushed through the crowd to drag me away. Whatever this is, let's talk downstairs. Stop making a scene here. I locked his arm and pinned him to the ground. You bastard, my paintings magically became Yi Qingran's work, and you dare lecture me. Now I finally understood why he meanly kept glancing nervously behind me when he visited my studio that day. You weren't here to apologize that day, you came to steal photos of my work. Yi Qingran cut me off with a condescending tone. Wanjing, stop your nonsense. People will just think you're insane. Without hesitation, he meanly signaled his bodyguards to drag me out. Amid the chaos, Master Zhao, the renowned traditional Chinese painting artist, stepped onto the stage and silenced the commotion with an authoritative cough. He asked Yi Qingran if the painting Dawn was truly her own work. Yi Qingran eagerly claimed authorship, but Professor Zhao shook his head with a smile. Young lady, poor technique can be improved, but a flawed character is beyond repair. Yi Qingran turned pale instantly. What do you mean by that? But when she looked up and saw all my works displayed on the large screen, she was rendered speechless. It was simple. Once I decided to study under Master Zhao, I reached out to him immediately and have been mailing him one painting every month. The competition piece Dawn was completed a week in advance and already submitted to the event organizers. Yi Qingran instantly became the target of scornful gazes from the entire audience. Her face flushed crimson as she clutched her stomach and collapsed into He Mingli's arms. Brother Mingli, so Wanjing has seen me as an enemy all along. She never trusted us. He Mingli glared at me furiously. You did this on purpose, acting all cautious just to humiliate us. I sneered. You're the thieves here, yet you're the ones raging. Your shamelessness knows no bounds. He Mingli barked at the bodyguards to clear the room, grinding his teeth as he said, Ran is pregnant. She mustn't overexert herself. I just wanted to make her happy. Come on. It's just a painting. No need to make such a fuss. Know when to quit, eh? Despicable thief. Yet he made himself sound so righteous. Cut the crap with your robber's logic. I couldn't help but growl. He Mingli, how dare you sacrifice my opportunity without batting an eye just to get Yi Qingran into that master's good graces? Who gave you the right? Did you give silent approval to having me locked in the bathroom? He Mingli remained silent, his gaze locking onto me with unreadable intensity at my insistent demand. The event organizers called the police, however. He Mingli and the other person were released after simply paying a fine. The cringe-worthy video of Yi Qingran's public humiliation at the competition has gone viral throughout the entire community. I joined fellow artists in a collective boycott against this shameless and idiotic act of plagiarism. Within days, Yi Qingran was absolutely torn to shreds online and had to disable her comment section in the dead of night. He Mingli called again, still accusing me of being too aggressive. You knew she's pregnant. Couldn't you just cut her some slack? Being pregnant doesn't give her the right to cause trouble. As graduation approached, I moved out of the dorm and devoted myself entirely to studying painting under Professor Zhao. I also took the opportunity to tour southern cities, visiting renowned painters along the way. After returning, our class monitor called to organize a pre-graduation gathering. After a pause, she said, You know who, Yi Qingran is coming too. I wasn't surprised. We were in the same department after all, though come to think of it, this was around the time she had her first miscarriage in our past life. The gathering was on the second-floor rooftop terrace of a quiet bar, where the evening breeze brought instant relief. During the banquet, He Mingli attentively tended to Yi Qingran, whose belly was visibly rounded with pregnancy. Setting down her glass, Yi Qingran approached. Xingxing, could you accompany me to the restroom? Alarm bells instantly rang in my head as I took a large step backward. With so many girls around you, why does it have to be me, Wanjing? He Mingli's voice turned icy. Don't drag Ran into our quarrel. Is it going to kill you to walk her to the restroom? Actually, it very well might, remembering how he threatened my father's life in our past existence, forcing me into backbreaking labor for over 12 hours daily while sleeping beside Yi Qingran's tombstone. My teeth grind with hatred. I wonder what expression He Mingli wore when I died of heart failure from exhaustion. Laugh your head off with joy, then curse me to eternal damnation. I remained seated like a mountain, while Yi Qingran stormed off to the restroom with a dark expression, wiping her tears. During this lull, Suna, who hadn't been seen in ages, stood up and poured a glass of wine to toast He Mingli. I was wrong before, terribly wrong, but I beg you to show mercy. Stop pressuring my parents, they're just farmers. My mother has schizophrenia. She can't handle the stress. Suna looked haggard, her voice choked with sobs, teetering on the edge of a breakdown. He Mingli merely raised his wrist and took a leisurely sip of red wine. Oh, and how is that my problem? You pissed off Ran. This is the price for making her unhappy. Suna gritted her teeth. I've been handwriting apology letters to her for a whole month now. What more do you want? And you even hired local thugs to harass us. Hearing this, He Mingli was taken aback. I only told them to cause some minor trouble in the orchard, didn't I? This was clearly serious illegal activity. I stared at He Mingli speechlessly. Suna had always been a financially struggling student. Her family's orchard was their sole means of survival. He sent people to sabotage them, enough to ruin their annual income, yet he still considered this punishment lenient. A sudden gust of wind swept across the balcony, causing Suna to lose her balance and lurch forward. He Mingli instinctively caught her in his arms. Yi Qingran, returning from the restroom, witnessed the scene. With eyes blazing in fury, she lunged at Su Na, grabbing for her hair. How dare you seduce him again? Seems I've been far too merciful with you. None of the classmates dared to intervene. For good reason, Yi Qingran went berserk and attacked anyone in sight. Whenever she was upset, He Mingli would take it out on everyone around her. Ran, calm down. It's all a misunderstanding. Amid the chaos, the silver railing behind them shook violently with a thunderous crash. The out-of-control Yi Qingran and He Mingli tumbled down from the second floor. The class monitor rushed over in panic. Oh my god, call 120, call an ambulance now. My downward glance caught the pool of blood spreading beneath Yi Qingran, mingling with the orange streetlight to form a grotesque crimson blossom in the night. Yi Qingran had miscarried. The class monitor said she woke up screaming and crying, clutching He Mingli's throat in a death grip. If it weren't for you and that bitch, my baby would still be alive. Was your promise to care for me forever just lies? You're no better than the bastard who abandoned me. He Mingli kept vigil by Yi Qingran's side day and night without resisting. In our past life, He Mingli once told me the reason he spoiled Yi Qingran unconditionally was because she had saved his life. Back in elementary school, he sneaked out one night to look for a puppy and nearly froze to death in the snow. It was Yi Qingran who carried him home. That's when he vowed to cherish this little girl for the rest of his life, but he never knew it was actually me who trudged through the snow for half an hour to bring him back. After the fall, He Mingli fractured his right arm and wore a cast, yet he visited Yi Qingran's hospital room daily to care for her. Initially, guilt weighed on him. He felt partially responsible for the accident. Moreover, he believed Yi Qingran's extreme behavior stemmed from her traumatic youth. Family upheaval followed by heartbreak at the hands of a scoundrel. He posted on social media, "I'll reclaim you from the darkness with all my love and devotion, just like the night you carried me home." Little did He Mingli know that his family was about to face a sudden upheaval. During dinner at home, my father casually mentioned, the He family's losing key executives has crippled their supply chain. They're scrambling for loans and investors now. Of course I knew about this. After all, I'd played my part in making it happen. That day, when my cousin's family went out on business, I took their son to the dentist. Of all places, I ran into an acquaintance by the hospital fountain. Yi Qingran sat pale in her wheelchair, her eyes vacant and lost. He Mingli bent down, offering the thermos to her lips, but whatever he said made Yi Qingran knock the cup away violently. Scalding water splashed across He Mingli's face, making him jerk back with a pained growl. "What the hell do you want from me? You yelled at me. How dare you? This just proves you don't love me anymore." Tears streaming down her face, Yi Qingran said, "Just leave. I don't want a man who doesn't love me by my side. Let me wither away alone." My 4-year-old nephew in my arms scratched his head and asked innocently, "Auntie, are those two crazy people? Should we buy them some food? Teacher says we should show kindness even to the mentally ill." Hearing this, He Mingli snapped out of his rage and stared at me in astonishment. Only then did I notice his bangs were poking into his sunken eyes. He looked deathly ill. After just days apart, Yi Qingran spotted my nephew in my arms and pointed a trembling finger. "What's with the baby? Came to mock me, you vicious witch." "Wan Jing, if you hadn't gone to that party, I wouldn't have gone either. None of this would have happened. With unreasonable people, even if you're miles away, they'll still find a way to blame you. I'm not your mother. Why must you follow me everywhere?" "Wan Jing, enough." He Mingli never realized he was always quick to shut me down. I shrugged. Instead of wasting time arguing with me, why not hurry and get her a neurology consult? My little nephew grinned and said, "Auntie, you're awesome." I walked off with the baby in my arms, leaving the two of them arguing behind me. My 4 years of college came to an end. As I carried my packed luggage downstairs, I ran into Su Na, who was also dragging a suitcase. She nodded at me, brushed past quickly, then suddenly turned back. "That night, you knew I tampered with the railing. Why didn't you call me out on it?" I shook my head. "I don't know what you're talking about." I had no intention of getting involved in her feud with Yi Qingran. On the contrary, the more thorough her revenge on those two, the more I enjoyed watching it unfold. As I turned around, a large hand suddenly shot out and slammed me against the wall. "He Mingli, are you out of your mind? Ran's been missing for days. Did you have anything to do with this?" He stared straight at me, his right hand slowly creeping up my neck. "She's always pulled these disappearing acts before. Am I supposed to be held accountable for every single hair she loses? I just saw you with that Su Na. She's got beef with Ran. Don't tell me you weren't egging them on. Wan Jing, you're just jealous that Ran won my heart, so you're taking it out on her." I watched coldly as he puffed himself up, pressing my index finger against his temple. "He Mingli, How's your skeleton holding up these days? He pressed his lips together and swallowed hard, haunted by memories of my bone-cracking techniques. Words mean nothing. Hand over your phone if you want to prove you haven't been scheming against Ranran. I laughed in disbelief. You think you're worthy of going through my phone? With unwavering eyes and a knowing smirk, he said, see, you're guilty. As he spoke, he tried to snatch my phone by flipping open my pocket when I turned in the scuffle. He shoved me into a small studio nearby, staring at his furrowed brows, deep enough to trap mosquitoes. I suddenly recalled something amusing. He Mingli, you claim Yi Qingran's been missing for days, yet instead of searching for her, you're here throwing a tantrum at me. Clearly, you don't care about her as much as you pretend. Ever since I witnessed their argument at the hospital last time, I've noticed the warmth in He Mingli's eyes when looking at Yi Qingran fading, replaced by growing irritation. No matter how beautifully phrased, love wears thin under the daily grind of mind games and petty dramas. Stung by my words, He Mingli impatiently lit a cigarette and clenched it between his teeth. My face darkened instantly. This is an art studio. Get out if you want to smoke. He suddenly seemed intrigued. Haven't heard you curse at me so bluntly in ages. Almost nostalgic. I suspected he might need a psychiatric evaluation himself. In the heavy silence, my phone rang. It was Liao Yan, a junior from the studio. Senpai, I'm all ready and waiting for your royal visit. He's been my go-to-life model recently. Got it. I'll be at the studio right away. Freeze, don't you dare move. He Mingli was standing uncomfortably close just now. He definitely heard Liao Yan's teasing remark. What's your deal with this guy? Since when have you two been an item? I shoved past him toward the exit. If you can't speak properly, then shut it. He Mingli stubbornly blocked the doorway, insisting I accompany him to the police station to await news about Yi Qingran. I elbowed him back and was about to curse when thick white smoke suddenly filled the cramped studio. He Mingli's carelessly tossed cigarette but had ignited the sketches piled in the corner. It was an accident, he blurted in panic, fumbling for his phone to call for help. Choking on the thickening smoke, I fought through the searing pain to salvage the remaining stacks of artwork. Fortunately, other classmates were in the building at the time. We all sprang into action and quickly put out the flames. Both He Mingli and I got disciplinary records, but he had the added honor of being publicly denounced to the whole school. Whether in my past life or this one, getting involved with him always brings me trouble. Now, there's no avoiding a trip to the police station, I said coldly as I dialed 110. Perhaps by fate's design, among all the paintings in the studio, only two were burned. One being that old piece I'd painted long ago titled Memories in the Snow. At the police station, He Mingli shuddered when he saw this mostly charred painting. In the vast white snowscape, a ponytailed girl carried an unconscious boy on her back, followed by a limping black-furred puppy. Mingli's eyes were frighteningly red as he asked me in a hoarse voice, Xingxing, did you draw this? Was it really you who carried me home all those years ago? I remained silent. He clutched the drawing tightly, unwilling to let go, his expression flickering with lingering affection and regret. Soon after, my father and Mingli's parents arrived as well. The night had deepened, and a torrential rain poured outside, each raindrop hitting the ground like golden butterflies taking flight. Seeing her son distraught, He Mingli's mother grabbed her umbrella and lunged at me. Such a trivial matter and you dragged it to the police station. You're deliberately making trouble for our He family. No wonder, raised without a mother's guidance, you've got no manners. Watch your mouth. Lay a finger on my daughter and you'll regret it. My father stepped in front of me, and He Mingli's parents immediately backed off. Wanjing, they're just a few worthless paintings. If you needed them, I could buy you 100, but no, since you couldn't land my Mingli, you're hellbent on ruining him. My dad chuckled. Who'd want a son like you, so eager to play daddy to someone else's kid? He Mingli's parents were already resentful about my father refusing their emergency loan, and now they seized this chance to vent their anger. The officer barked a sharp command, finally shutting them up. He Mingli's mother grabbed her son's hand. Mingli, tell me that little tramp Wanjing is lying. You'd never mess around with someone else. Enough, Mom. He Mingli covered his face with his hands, muttering, you shouldn't talk to Xingxing like that. I raised an eyebrow. What kind of drama was this? He Mingli was asked to compensate for my damaged artwork, but his mother stubbornly refused, insisting her son did nothing wrong. Amid the scuffle, a small packet of white powder fell out of He Mingli's pants pocket. The room fell deathly silent as the officers' expressions turned grave. They collected the white powder from the floor for testing, incidentally handcuffing a stunned He Mingli on the spot. My father shielded me with a cold laugh. Should have left when you had the chance. Now your son isn't going anywhere. After tonight's roller coaster of events, I'm completely drained. My father patted my shoulder just like when I was a child, reassuring me to focus on my art studies while he handled everything. Days later, just as I received an interview notice from a top international art academy, I heard Yi Qingran had returned. What's more, she was pregnant again, still with that biracial boyfriend's child. But when her boyfriend got arrested overseas for criminal activities, Ye's imagined love story shattered once more, driving her back to He Mingli. Little did anyone know, He Mingli was still being held in custody. His blood test came back clean, but the source of the contraband that fell from his pocket remained untraceable. In the end, it was Yi Qingran, visibly pregnant, who stepped forward to testify that He Mingli had been framed while accompanying her to a social gathering. Only after thorough verification was He Mingli finally released. That day, my father personally drove me downtown to attend the conference. Traffic jammed near the city police station, where I witnessed He Mingli's mother hysterically grabbing Yi Qingran by the hair, screaming that she'd ruined her son. Despite her pregnant belly, Yi Qingran overpowered the woman and pinned her to the ground within moments. With icy composure, she stated, "He Mingli killed my first child, this is what he owes me." He Mingli found himself entangled by Yi Qingran, reluctantly cutting ties with his family temporarily to accompany her during pregnancy. I posted the collected footage of the couple online with the caption, "Calling this the pinnacle of pure love wouldn't be an exaggeration." But knowing Yi Qingran's sensitive and suspicious nature all too well, I even hired some internet trolls to subtly imply in the comments section marriage should be between equals, otherwise, there'll be no end of troubles down the road. When Yi Qingran went live to share their relationship moments, everyone could see He Mingli's deteriorating mental state through his increasingly despondent appearance. That day, I posted my newly award-winning painting online. He Mingli was the first to like it. That evening during Yi Qingran's livestream, she tried coaxing him into showing public affection. When He Mingli refused and mocking comments flooded in, Yi Qingran lost control and smashed a wine bottle against the left side of his face. Watching those two tear into each other like rabid dogs, hitting where it hurts most, I was so entertained that I polished off an extra half bowl of rice. Within days, the He family, barely keeping their shell company afloat, hosted a family banquet. Dressed to the nines, I presented an exquisite painting and basked in the room's admiration, my current achievements and fanbase speaking for themselves. Yi Qingran, sidelined in the shadows, glared at me with venomous resentment burning in her eyes. She came here to flaunt how profound her love with He Mingli was, defying all odds and standing strong against countless obstacles. But now, the He family's company going bankrupt is a done deal. Among the crowd, only He Mingli treated her like a treasure. No one else would even spare her a glance. He Mingli's parents forced him into matchmaking with wealthy heiresses, though let's be honest, they just wanted him to become a live-in son-in-law. But at least this way we can still barely maintain a high-quality lifestyle in the future. Seeing this, Yi Qingran tightly wrapped her arms around He Mingli's waist, appearing vulnerable but with an underlying threat in her tone. "Mingli, you're all I have left. If you abandon me too, I don't know what I might do." He Mingli closed his eyes briefly, and when he spoke again, his gaze was utterly indifferent. "I'll stand by you till death do us part." Yi Qingran flashed a sly smile and enunciated each word, "Break this vow, and may your entire family perish miserably." He Mingli's mother collapsed to her knees in fury, her hands trembling uncontrollably. I went live, streaming this heartwarming scene in its entirety. Trapped in this predicament with the entire internet watching, He Mingli had no choice but to sink or swim with Yi Qingran. He reluctantly started sending out resumes to look for work, but due to his prior police record, He Mingli carried a stain on his reputation that made legitimate companies unwilling to hire him. He Mingli and Yi Qingran obtained their marriage certificate. Months later, Yi Qingran gave birth to a son, turning He Mingli into a first-time father. But the harsh reality was his meager salary of $1,000 or $2,000 a month couldn't possibly support the mother and child. When I returned home, He Mingli's mother came knocking at my door, grabbing my wrist and demanding I help win back her son's heart. "That gold-digging tramp Yi Qingran is sucking my son dry. How dare she think she's worthy of the He family name, Mrs. His eyes welled up as she complained, "That girl doesn't earn a penny yet spends tens of thousands on clothes every month. My son has to work night shifts driving cabs just to support her extravagant lifestyle." I chuckled, "Auntie, your son chose this willingly. Don't blame others for his decisions." Before going abroad, I held my very first art exhibition. While I was enthusiastically chatting with several art-loving gentlemen, He Mingli approached from a distance with a forced smile. Just a few months apart, yet he looked like he'd aged a decade. His stubble was unkempt, with bruises and cuts at the corners of his mouth. He forced a gentle smile, though the corners of his mouth twitched slightly. "Xing, the exhibition was absolutely brilliant. I loved it," I replied coldly. "Thanks." His voice dropped, Pity we don't have your painting Memories in the Snow. Good riddance to that painting. It's my biggest regret. I should be thanking you. He meanly jerked his head up, staring at me in shock before rasping. Are you leaving the country, Xing? The night Yi Qingran went into labor, I had this horrible nightmare. In it, our families arranged our marriage, but I treated you so cruelly afterwards. I became obsessed with blaming you for all the suffering Yi Qingran endured. I clenched my teeth as I watched his tears overflow, snapping coldly, finished with your performance, get out, don't ruin the exhibition for other visitors. Xing, that dream wasn't real, was it? I'd never plot against your family, never threaten your father's life to force you to kneel, never make you tend graves. How did things come to this? He meanly shook his head with a grotesque mix of laughter and tears. We grew up together. We were supposed to have a happy ending, only. Today did I realize, I never truly loved Yi Qingran. I just relished her complete dependence on me and couldn't let go of all the time and effort I'd invested in her. Xing, you're the one who truly matters to me. I cut him off loudly. Security, please call an ambulance for this gentleman. As he was being dragged out, he meanly struggled to look back at me, begging me not to forget him. I was so disgusted I nearly lost my composure on the spot. After being abroad for over half a year, my father mentioned casually during a chat that Yi Qingran had passed away, and he meanly had fallen into depression. Postpartum Yi Qingran remained extremely sensitive, lashing out at He Mingli over the slightest inconvenience. She harbored both love and resentment toward her child, drowning herself in alcohol and nicotine day after day while performing at a bar. She was spotted by Suna, a former scholarship student she once knew. Suna had since become a renowned movie star. Suna forced Yi Qingran to kneel publicly and pour her a drink, then demanded she sing 3 songs. In a fit of rage, Yi Qingran nearly strangled Suna to death. After enduring relentless cyberbullying with no outlet for her pain, she could only vent by fighting with He Mingli day and night. He Mingli roared, if I'd known you were just pretending before, I'd never have chosen a lunatic like you over Wanjing. That night, Yi Qingran turned on the gas. Of the 3, only He Mingli survived, but with severe organ damage. After working grueling shifts back to back, his body was completely drained, leaving him bedridden and surviving on welfare checks. After hearing it, I simply replied with a flat noted, in this world, everyone walks their own path and faces their own destiny. Some people go to exhausting lengths, jumping through hoops just to prove they've found love. I refuse to be shackled by so-called romance, torturing myself beyond recognition. I'll cherish this second chance at life, painting my way to a brilliant future with every brushstroke. I stood speechless, choking back tears. None of your business, the end. Story 2. In my 7th year by Hui Yuan's side, his rival dragged me to the edge of a cliff. On that scale of fate stood his ex-wife's ashes alongside me. Between the living and the dead, he chose the latter without hesitation, so I became death too. When I opened my eyes again, I'd become the young mistress of Nanjing's renowned carving dynasty. My first commission after taking charge. None other than Hui Yuan himself. He wanted a golden statue crafted in exact likeness of his late wife. I stood speechless before that photograph of myself. The visitor spoke politely, yet with an air of unyielding authority. We've long heard of Miss Luo's exceptional skills, surpassing even your esteemed father's. We sincerely hope you'll give our young mistress's matter your utmost attention. There are too many absurdities here. I don't even know where to begin. After careful consideration, I asked, are you certain this is your young mistress? Hu Jiao's handsome face darkened, his eyes turning red. What exactly do you mean by this, Miss Luo? How could I possibly mistake the identity of our young mistress? Of course, Hu Jiao was the Hu family's chief steward, Hui Yuan's most loyal attack dog, practically a quarter share of the household's authority. There's no way he'd be confused about who the young mistress was. Watching Hu Jiao's pained expression beside me, I nearly burst out laughing. The thought of his infallible marksmanship made me swallow my words. Can't blame me. It was only a month ago when I still wore that face from the photo. He looked at me with utter disgust. The only young mistress of this house will ever be Sister Baiyan. Who the hell do you think you are? I laughed through my rage. I'm your damn father. Wasn't I the one who carried his dying body out of the rainforest? By the grace of giving him a second life, don't I qualify as his father? Yet saving his life ultimately couldn't compare to Baiyan's moldy steamed bun. Made him guard that person faithfully for 18 solid years. Come to think of it, which of the Hu family isn't like this? I'd give them my heart and soul, yet it wouldn't hold a candle to Baiyan's faintest smile. So there we stood at the cliff's edge, everyone holding their breath, terrified a single speck of Baiyan's ashes might scatter to the wind. Not a soul cared that I'd been dashed to pieces at the foot of the cliff. I wiped the smile off my face and said earnestly, no, I just wanted to double check. it won't work if we get it wrong, I said thoughtfully. Perhaps Mr. Hui should double-check. Maybe Hu Jiao's gone mad and sneaked out behind Hui Yuan's back. If Hui Yuan loses his temper, I might still get out of this unscathed. Once a business partner saw Hui Yuan holding my hand and came over calling me Mrs. Hua. Hui Yuan nearly wiped out my entire family. In his words, what the hell am I? Yeah, what the hell am I? Indeed, I carried this question through death and back to life. When I opened my eyes again, someone answered that question for me. The butler said with tears in his eyes, "You're the heir to our Nanchang carving dynasty, young mistress." What heir? Carving? I pointed at myself in disbelief. So I can carve too. The butler gave a thumbs up. "Miss, your carving skills are unparalleled, a true master." My vision went dark once on a whim. I carved Hui Yuan 100 birds paying homage to the phoenix from a radish. He held his chopsticks for a long moment before remarking, "Asen's craftsmanship is remarkable. The ducks playing in water carving is exquisitely detailed." Hu Jiao sneered from the side, a poor imitation trying to rival the original. Both Hui Yuan's and my smiles faded. I often heard the servants say Bayan was the most dexterous, almost like a celestial fairy. Why bother listening to them anyway? Hui Yuan rubbed the tattered handkerchief, its embroidered stitches still vivid despite the years. After a long silence, Hu Jiao nodded. "That was thoughtless of me." I heaved a sigh of relief. "That bastard nearly dragged me down with him." Suddenly, Hu Jiao added, "Right, we should double-check the material purity and dimensions with the young master. Can't afford any slip-ups." He bowed to me. "Many thanks for your guidance, Miss Luo. I'll pay another visit tomorrow." I was utterly speechless. This isn't about material specs, it's about the people involved. But Hu Jiao didn't give me a chance, turning on his heel and walking away. The moment he left, I wailed to the butler, "Uncle Yang, I've suddenly forgotten how to carve." Uncle Yang stiffened in shock. "Then what do we do?" "I've already taken the Hua family's deposit." I froze in equal shock. The Hua family's trade routes run like clockwork. Anyone who dares abandon their post mid-journey will pay a price far heavier than gold. Uncle Yang paced anxiously before slapping his thigh in frustration. "Why don't you go beg Third Master for help?" "Third Master? Which third master? Surely not the one I know." Too. The figure before me was swathed in silk, wreathed in sandalwood smoke, his beauty ethereal as an immortal from the Wei Jin era. "But this is way too skinny. You've lost so much weight since last time." Before I could even react, someone forced my head down and shouted, "Uncle, what the hell?" Uncle Yang wept bitterly, lamenting the injustice of heaven. Only Luo Changlin and I remain as the last bloodline of the Luo family, yet here we are, one barely clinging to life in a sickbed, the other having forgotten the family's legacy. How are we supposed to survive like this? My heart churned with mixed emotions. My former archenemy was on death's door, yet here I was, preparing to mourn him. What kind of twisted fate was this? Luo Changlin didn't even lift an eyelid. "Can't help. Hey, you've got zero team spirit." Just as I was about to speak, Uncle Yang rushed forward, dropped to his knees with a dramatic slide, and pulled out that lump of trash I'd carved while wailing his complaints. Luo Changlin finally looked up at me, guiltily rubbing my nose. I averted my gaze. He gave a cold laugh. "After all these years, this is what Big Brother trained, this thing. But what does this have to do with me?" Though Luo Changlin was an adopted son of the Luo family, his abilities far surpassed those of the biological heirs. Old Master Luo treated him equally, even considering naming him as the successor at one point. The young masters of the Luo family naturally resented this, yet lacked the capability to undermine him. In a fit of ruthlessness, I poisoned Luo Changlin. From then on, he was bedridden with illness, so sparing my life could be considered an act of mercy on his part. Uncle Yang heaved a long sigh. "This is retribution. We can blame no one else." "Then I'll go beg the Hua family to turn down this job." The man on the lounge chair snorted with laughter, suddenly looking more alive. "That bastard Hui Yuan finally kicked the bucket and needs a tombstone." I'd be delighted. Me and Uncle Yang, the third master of the Luo family, known as the twin marvels of South City, a face that kills, and a tongue that slays. His words could poison a man with a single sentence. Our feud began the first time we met, all because of that venomous tongue of his. Uncle Yang shook his head. "Heard they're commissioning a golden statue for their young mistress who passed too soon." Luo Changlin grew more animated. If he loved her so much, why didn't he follow Bai En to the grave? How morbid. Not the previous Lady Bai, it's for the one who passed last month. They called her Sun Yu. I heard. With a crashing sound, Luo Changlin tumbled off the recliner, his raven hair disheveled, eyes crimson like a demon's. "Ha ha." His laughter mingled with bloody coughs. "This is too damn funny." Old Yang was frantic. Third Master, Stop laughing this instant." I shrank back in fear. Jesus, Luo Changlin's gone completely off the rails since I last saw him months ago. After a long pause, he looked up and said, "Tell Hui Yuan I'm taking this job." Just as I sighed in relief and was about to thank him, his dagger-like glare shot my way. "Listen kid, you'll be my assistant. Let's see how utterly useless you really are. You." I started to protest, only to be cut off by his icy tone. "If you're truly incompetent, you won't need these hands anymore." "Fine, he's the boss. I'm the workhorse, not like I can complain anyway." 3. The next day, the Hua family delivered more detailed blueprints. Luo Changlin didn't let them in, only taking that portrait photo. In the picture, my younger self stood beside Hui Yuan, grinning carefreely. Luo Changlin stared at it unblinkingly. After a long pause, he tore it without hesitation. Hui Yuan's handsome face was instantly reduced to shreds. "What's that nobody doing up there?" Just as Hu Jiao was about to explode, Luo Changlin cut him off. "Ungrateful wretch, think carefully, with my little niece's hands injured, I'm the only one left who can carve for you." Hu Jiao swallowed his rage and clasped his hands. "We'll be counting on your diligence, third master." She shot me another fierce glare before turning away. "Damn that little bastard." I followed Luo Changlin back to the room in a huff, laying out his tools across the table, yet he remained motionless for a long while. The hand holding the photo trembled slightly. I slipped away quietly. "Third uncle seems tired, maybe we should call it a day." He remained silent. I pretended to open the door, only to hear him mutter, "Bootlicker." I slipped and nearly fell. "Wait, did Luo Changlin recognize me?" Turning around, I saw him sneering at my photo. Luo Changlin and I never got along, all because he called me a lapdog. Fuming with rage, I pried open his window with a knife in the dead of night, only to catch him stepping out of the shower. Long legs, wasp waist, pale and sizable. Wait, no, pale and tall. I instinctively let out a wolf whistle. He trembled with rage, his eyes bloodshot and face flushed, but Master Luo III was still Master Luo after all. Straightening his clothes, he politely invited me to sit down for a drink. His beauty was matched only by his voice, clear and melodious like jade striking spring water. He sweet-talked me into drinking cup after cup of his fine tea until I grew drowsy and forgot my original purpose. As I took my leave, Luo Changlin flashed a wicked grin. "Bye-bye, little lapdog." I jolted awake and frantically searched for my blade, but he'd already seized it, refusing to return it no matter how I pleaded. I lowered my eyes with a bitter smile, remembering the past. Who would have thought I'd meet him again in this borrowed flesh? Luo Changlin gripped that photograph, his words dripping venom, said I'd brought this upon myself, strayed from the righteous path. What a dog's life. I listened to his tirade in silence. A storm was raging in my heart. Everyone else could see it clearly, yet I foolishly clung on for 7 years. 7 years are enough for phoenix trees to shed and bloom anew. Enough for a child to grow into adulthood, yet they weren't enough to make Hui Yuan fall in love with me. The stream of curses in my ears never ceased as I lowered my gaze and walked away. Autumn arrived in Nan City with relentless wind and rain, droplets gradually streaking across the floor-to-ceiling windows. Spare me from hearing the choked sobs beneath the rage, for Uncle Yang dragged me out of bed at the crack of dawn. By the time I stumbled into the workshop, rubbing my eyes, Luo Changlin in his tang suit was already seated at the workbench. He chuckled when he saw me. "My dear niece arrives quite early. Next time, why not have dinner before coming?" Me, facing this formidable figure, I didn't want to stir up any trouble. Quickly putting on a smile, I stepped forward. "Uncle, you're too kind. Where shall we begin? I'll assist you." Luo Changlin remained silent, quietly pulling down the red cloth before him. Beneath the cloth lay an exquisitely lifelike golden statue. I stood frozen in place. It was the statue of a young maiden, eyes as lively as mountain blossoms, brows as stubborn as spring grass, a smile that radiates boundless warmth. That too was me, my departed twilight. Only the sound of breathing filled the room. After what felt like an eternity, Hu Jiao's sobs broke the silence. A bitter taste rose in his throat. Through his tears, he whispered, "Little sister, I miss you." I first entered the Hua household at merely 19. At 22, Hu Jia was as fierce as a wolf. He grabbed my hand and flung me out the door. Only after I saved his life did he grudgingly acknowledge me as his sworn sister. From then on, he guarded me like his own eyes. But the wind on the cliff that day was too fierce. It made me face reality once again. They threw me out like trash. When Hu Jiao cried, Luo Changlin laughed. Well, even an ingrate can shed tears. Hu Jiao wiped his face as the Silent One gestured for his men to move the golden statue out. Luo Changlin smashed his cup. "Hold it." Hu Jiao paused. "What further instructions does Third Master have?" The Luo family's golden statues gained renown not just for their exquisite craftsmanship, because they only accept commissions for the departed. The Luo family's golden statue can summon spirits in the midnight hour, those unspoken regrets and unfinished longings may finally find their voice. Summoning spirits with this golden statue, there are many rules to follow, Huijiao's expression turned grave instantly. Third Master, your command, Luo Chongling rasped like an Azura, make that Hui Yuan crawl here like a dog, then kowtow at every step on his way back, only then will it suffice. 5 As expected, the gathering ended in discord. I face-bombed, uncle, why pass up such easy money? He gave me a cold look. Because I have a conscience. I was speechless. What did that make my slaughtered kin then? He paused again, because I have a conscience, unlike some people who'd stoop to being lapdogs, and heartless ones at that. Why does that sound so familiar? My eyelid twitched as I cautiously asked, Uncle, are you talking about me? He sneered, you're not even worth that. Me, fine, I was just being a nuisance. I was about to leave when he yanked me back. Where do you think you're going without finishing your homework? I ducked my head obediently and returned to my workbench, squinting casually. He said, start with something simple, try carving a magnolia blossom. Gripping the knife, I took a deep breath, raised the blade, and made the first cut. The sudden interruption came again. Are you left-handed? I glanced at the knife in my left hand and shook my head. Not really, but holding the knife in my left hand just feels more natural. The table trembled slightly as Luo Chonglin started coughing again. After a long pause, he straightened up and said, carve it. Casually tucking away the blood-stained handkerchief. Damn it, my arch-nemesis is really about to kick the bucket. I averted my gaze and focused on carving the magnolia. After 15 minutes, I finally carved out a piece of junk. Old man Luo frowned deeply, his disgust written all over his face. He waved his hand, eager to shoo away this cursed thing of mine. I took the hint and bolted immediately. 6 Huijiao and his men came knocking again. Rumor has it they brought triple the original payment. Uncle Yang glanced at Luo Chonglin. Third Master, the tea-sipping man remained unmoved. I believe I've made my terms clear. Their deafness is their own problem. Luo Chonglin had the Hua family members escorted out. After a long while, another visitor arrived at the door. Uncle Yang reluctantly opened the door. Standing outside was Hui Yuan, clad entirely in black. He'd grown thinner too, but after all, this was the legendary young Master Hua of Hong Kong. His commanding presence remained undiminished. With downcast eyes, he smiled gently. I've come to take Song Yu home, my heart soared high. How long have I waited to hear these words? I've lost count. From cliff's edge to its base I've waited. From burning passion to cold indifference. Luo Chonglin remained silent. I answered silently in my heart. Too late. It's too late. Hui Yuan, the twilight of mulberry trees has vanished from this world. Hui Yuan and I met during a mountain landslide. He was a visiting mountaineer. I was an abandoned mountain scholar. My parents planned to sell me to buy a child bride for my 10-year-old brother. He saved my life, then he paid for my education. He's my benefactor. Those years by Hui Yuan's side, I fell for him helplessly. The eldest son of the Hua family was peerlessly handsome and exceptionally capable, yet this destined master of pleasure had an untimely departed first love. Countless tried with all their might but could never breach his heart again. I was no different, only more foolish than most. 7 years of grinding erased even my name. Our relationship shifted in the 4th year. We got stranded on a snow mountain, both coincidentally wearing white down jackets. The rescue plane couldn't spot us, so I slit my wrist and marked the circle with blood. When I opened my eyes again, Hui Yuan sat frozen by the bedside. Fool, he said it again, fool, with bloodshot eyes. He crushed his lips against mine in a desperate kiss. In that moment, I knew every prayer I'd ever made had been answered. Yet even so, he still chose to visit the cemetery on my birthday. My birthday falls on the anniversary of Baiyan's death. I watched Hui Yuan's retreating figure and murmured, why? From the Hua family's accounts, I learned about their past. Baiyan never loved Hui Yuan. She had planned to elope with her lover, but they both perished in a car accident. Yet even so, the anniversary of her death remains Hui Yuan's eternal winter night. Hui Shu looked at my devastated self and smiled. She said some people win just by standing there, without lifting a finger. The moment I closed my eyes for good, at the cliff's bottom, these words finally returned to me. Coming to his senses, Hui Yuan still stood stubbornly at the door, not budging an inch. Luo Chonglin finally lost his patience. Get the hell out of here, Hui Yuan continued. She's just throwing a tantrum. She'd never leave me waiting. She adores me so much. The moment I call, she comes running with eager eyes. Ha, how absurd. No wonder Luo Chonglin called me a lapdog. Spot on. A sharp pain shot through my heart, and with my eyes closed, I blacked out completely. When I came to, The room was dimly lit. The shadow of the person beside me cast a familiar silhouette on the wall. Sangyu, you're alive, aren't you? 7. The lamplight revealed a figure with striking bone structure and piercing eyes. It was Huashu. She didn't glance my way, separated by a folding screen. She and the golden statue stood in silent communion. After a long silence, she finally chuckled. They said you were shattered at the cliff's base. But I never believed it. As I listened to her whisper, my thoughts drifted far away. Huashu was the Hua family's illegitimate daughter, an embarrassment they'd rather keep hidden in the Hua household where only the strong thrived. Her frailty made her an easy target for bullying over time. Everyone said the Hua family had produced a madwoman. She'd bite anyone who came near, stubborn and foul-tempered, just like a man, until the day I caught her secretly weeping on her mother's death anniversary. She would often gaze intently at beautiful jewelry and dresses. Later, I made persistent efforts to get closer to her, celebrated her birthdays, accompanied her to doctor visits, helped her dress up. Though only 3 months older, I'd long considered myself her elder sister. I'm feeling a bit unwell. The next instant, her words plunged me into an ice cellar. She said, I actually quite dislike you, being so kind to everyone, but no matter how much you imitate Sister Bayan, you'll never be that pure moonlight. You're just cheap candy wrapper, flashy but ultimately cloying. I froze in place. What had her precious sister Bayan ever given her? When Boucher first entered the Hua household, she tossed a sanitary pad at the panicked Huashu with utter disdain as the girl fumbled with her first period. Yet like Huijio's moldy buns, this became the memory they couldn't shake off for years. Her lips parted as if releasing a long-buried secret. Her eyes held no remorse, only liberation. You never knew, did you? You could have lived that day, because Sister Bayan never actually died. My pupils dilated as my heart plummeted. Could anything be more absurd than this? I thought I'd merely lost to an urn of ashes. Turns out even those ashes were a lie. Huashu stood before the golden statue, her expression unreadable. With a tinge of regret, she murmured, Pity I forgot to thank you. The scene before me began crumbling and warping. Coming to my senses, my face gradually grew as expressionless as that golden statue. I stepped around the folding screen, startled by the unexpected presence of another person. Huashu's face briefly registered alarm. Recognizing me, her composure returned instantly. Without even glancing my way, she said, Miss Luo, I'll be taking the golden statue now. I waved my hand dismissively with genuine sincerity. But didn't my third uncle say, to move the golden statue, Hu Yuan must kowtow with every step he takes? Huashu narrowed her eyes, her face twisting with distaste. Miss Luo, sheltered as you've been, you may not realize, I'm not so easily persuaded. Her gaze returned to the golden statue. They say your Luo family's golden statue can summon spirits, but I've never believed in karma or retribution. I smiled faintly in agreement. Exactly. If there's any divine justice, it should fall on the betrayers first. Why should victims suffer the torments of reincarnation? Huashu's back stiffened. The look she gave me when turning around was almost vicious. I met her gaze calmly. Though I've lived in seclusion, I've heard how Miss Hua acquired the Li family's land last year wasn't exactly honorable. Her face completely changed color. Who in the Hua family doesn't have secrets? And as it happens, I know every single one of them. Huashu left in utter disarray. Of course, she couldn't take that golden statue with her. I studied the golden statue in silence, truly worthy of Luo Chongling's craftsmanship. She stood there, lifelike in every detail. The sculptor must have known it intimately, capturing even its subtlest expressions. The one I loved cast me into hell. Yet in the end it was my sworn enemy who carved my statue. Nothing but absurdity filled my mind. As I was lost in thought, Luo Chonglin materialized soundlessly behind me. What's on your mind, little niece? I studied the man beside me. His face still bore that pale, strikingly handsome yet gloomy countenance despite the summer heat. His silk robe remained fastened up to the top jade button. Physical imperfections, and an overly somber disposition made his life both stifling and dull. The world once mocked him as a man encased in a jade shell. I suddenly grew curious about this legendary third master Luo, my sworn rival. Uncle, have you ever had any thrilling moments in your life? Luo Chongling gave me an icy once-over as the night breeze lifted a corner of his silk robe. He remained silent for a long while. I rubbed my neck and was about to make a quick exit. Then I heard him say casually, Yes, there is. 8. Luo Chonglin had a change of heart and started loving work. The man who used to be practically invisible now frequently lingered around the office. Uncle Yang said with relief, Our Luo family is finally thriving. I sighed while clutching the thick stack of documents. The only one thriving is Third Master Luo himself. After all, his days are spent sipping tea, watering flowers, or strolling around with that diamond-encrusted cane of his. Before I could finish, the man's gaze sharpened. Little niece, you seem to have Objections, I waved my hands hastily. No, no, I wouldn't dare. Luo Changlin chuckled. Take the day off today. I'm taking you somewhere nice. Before I knew it, Luo Changlin had practically dragged me into his car, watching the blurring cityscape through the window. I asked dryly, boss playing hooky like this, aren't you afraid the company will go under? Luo Changlin propped his forehead casually. Don't worry, I'll die young anyway. This mess will be yours to clean up. Watching his indifferent demeanor, I recalled when we first met, coughing up blood. He still recklessly plunged into the freezing pool when I finally managed to haul him up with great effort. All I got was an icy glare. Mind your own business. I was fuming with rage. Onlookers sneered mockingly. Why bother? Miss Sang. No one would dare harm our illustrious Master Luo III. He's just having a moment of self-pity. The man exchanged a malicious glance with his companion. What's the point of figuring it out anyway? I won't live long regardless. That malice seemed to merge with Luo Changlin's current indifferent demeanor. A strange feeling welled up in my chest. Uncle, life is precious. Don't curse yourself like that. He met my gaze casually, only to find solemn determination in my eyes. The stifling summer heat stayed trapped beyond the windows. The car was enveloped in complete silence. After a long pause, Luo Changlin curled his lips into a faint smile, yet averted his gaze. Got it. I felt a subtle wave of relief wash over me. Then I met his half-smiling eyes again. My little niece sure has quite the reach. I shook my head inwardly. People's hearts are fickle, as they say, yet after all these years, Luo Changlin remains that same tsundere oddball. He took me to a place in the distant suburbs, an utterly unremarkable garden, a squat little house. The garden was filled with bizarre plants that seemed both meticulously tended and left to grow wild. The moment the door opened, 4 or 5 cats swarmed around us. They rubbed familiarly against Luo Changlin's trousers, rolling playfully at his feet. Luo gently nudged them aside and led me into the low-slung house. A wave of familiarity washes over me. The walls are plastered with Shugo-chara posters, and the cabinet is stuffed with yuzu candies, but no matter how hard I try, I can't recall ever having a room like this. Where could I have seen this before to feel so familiar? The modest cottage looked utterly out of place with Luo Changlin's aristocratic bearing. I asked him, isn't trespassing a bit inappropriate? With slender fingers, Luo Changlin unwrapped a pomelo candy and popped it into his mouth without ceremony. The typically composed and expressionless man crunched the candy loudly between his teeth. What's on your mind? I was utterly puzzled. Then why on earth do you have such a peculiar little garden? He gave a hollow laugh. Hired a completely incompetent designer. Got scammed. Someone actually managed to outsmart Luo Changlin. I was dying of curiosity. Who's there? Under his intense gaze, I actually felt a twinge of guilt looking at those decorations. It suddenly hit me. Wasn't this the exact house from my dreams? Ever since childhood, I'd dreamed of having a little house of my own, surrounded by peculiar plants, with cabinets always stocked with pomelo candies. The pomelo candy I didn't have to share with my brother. But how on earth did Luo Changlin know? His dark eyes bore into me, and for a fleeting moment, I felt he'd seen through to the very core of my being. Yet he said nothing. I didn't dare speak another word. Suddenly, Luo Changlin's phone rang. The butler's panicked voice came through. Master Luo. Young Master Hui stormed in with his men and forcibly took the golden statue. 9. Luo Changlin sped down the road. On their way back, I tried to calm him down. Uncle, you need to take it easy. His eyes were icy cold as he asked, will you change your mind? What? The howling wind drowned out his words. His hand paused slightly before he asked in a low voice, I mean, if Sangyu were still alive, do you think she'd come back? I stared at his sharp profile, feeling my heart suddenly race. Since my rebirth, I've asked myself this question more than once. When I lay dying at the cliff's edge, unwilling to accept my fate, I'd imagined their faces filled with bitter regret. Why me? Why should I be the one abandoned? But when I breathed fresh air again, all I felt was sheer relief. That overwhelming gratitude for being alive. You only understand it after tasting death's bitterness. I shook my head. She wouldn't. No one can forgive on behalf of the dead Sangyu, not even my present self. Luo Changlin's lips curled faintly. I thought as much. Then let us carry out judgment in her stead. When they stormed into the Hui residence, Hui Yuan stood silently in the shadows, clad in black. The air was thick with the metallic tang of blood and the acrid scent of burnt incense. Luo Changlin let out a derisive laugh. Huamut, why don't you just die? Who do you think you're fooling with these pathetic tricks? Only now do I see it. Hui Yuan's hanging hand was dripping with blood. His face darkened with malice, all composure gone, his voice icy. Third Master Luo, didn't you claim your family's golden statue could summon spirits? Why hasn't my Sangyu returned? His words dripped with venom. By the end, Luo Changlin let out a hollow laugh, staring into Hui Yuan's bloodshot eyes as he enunciated each word. Perhaps she never wants to see a beast like you. Again, not in this life or the next. Every syllable Luo spoke was a dagger to the heart. If the timing weren't so off, I'd almost feel like giving him a round of applause, but it only provoked Hui Yuan into drawing his gun. You're asking for death. She loves me so much. There's no way she wouldn't come see me. You must have pulled some dirty tricks. Hu Jiao stood by with bloodshot eyes. Ever since that day when we found Sang Yu's mutilated body at the cliff base, the boss hasn't been himself. At first, he showed no signs of abnormality. Not even a trace of grief was visible. Even after all those years by the boss's side, he couldn't help but feel chilled by Sang Yu's fate until one day, when they drove past a bustling shopping mall by the grand floor-to-ceiling window, a girl stood with eyes closed, making a wish over a beautiful cake. The cake bore a candle plaque reading 26. His once powerful elder brother suddenly bent forward, his expression eerily calm yet utterly unhinged. He murmured, she should have turned 26 too. 10. Luo Changlin glanced back at Uncle Yang. Uncle Yang stepped forward with a nod, clearing his throat. Young Master Hua, this is no way to conduct business. Hui Yuan rasped. What? Not enough money? Then name your price. Uncle Yang shook his head. Our terms were clear from the beginning. Hui Yuan himself must kowtow every step of the way. The surrounding Hua family members' expressions darkened. With an impatient wave of his hand, Hui Yuan summoned his entourage forward, facing the menacing bodyguards. Uncle Yang calmly produced a phone with an ongoing call on the screen. A pale, delicate woman wept bitterly, her face streaked with tears. She was being held at the cliff's edge, trembling uncontrollably. The howling winds at the precipice roared with such force it made one's eardrums ache. One could easily imagine the bottomless abyss yawning beneath that cliff. The Hua family's expressions darkened again. Hu Jiao's face went deathly pale as he gasped in shock. Sister Baiyan. Hu Shu advanced furiously, shoving the gun barrel right in our faces. Luo Changlin, what the hell are you trying to do? On the screen, Baiyan's tears pooled uncontrollably at the corners of her eyes as she called out timidly, Yuan, it's so high up here, I'm terrified, save me, Yuan. Hui Yuan's bloodshot pupils contracted sharply, keep our business between us. Don't drag innocent people into this. Luo Changlin tilted his head slightly and said flatly. Just making another choice. That's all. Last time between the living and the dead, young Master Hua chose the dead, so this time between the dead and the living, who will young Master Hua pick? Uncle Yang added with a smile. Don't worry, young Master Hua, the moment we retrieve the golden statue, we'll release the hostage at the cliff immediately. I studied Baiyan at the other end, the name I've heard whispered for so many years. To the Hua family, she was the purest pearl, the brightest moon. She remained my unresolved longing through all those years. In my mind's eye, she must have been divine in her perfection, yet as I gazed at the sobbing woman, I realized she bore the same ordinary face as anyone else. Hui Yuan's hands trembled slightly, torn between hesitation and torment. Closing my eyes, the howling wind from the video call transported me back to that cliff edge from my past. That day, Hui Yuan's hands shook just the same, his eyes brimming with conflict, anguish, guilt, and tenderness. In the end, he averted his gaze with quiet reluctance. Silence spread among the gathered crowd. Baiyan's sudden cry pierced the air. This time, her tears flowed with raw sincerity. Gone was the carefully curated fragility of moments before. The rock beneath her feet began to loosen. Crash. The faint sound of falling stones finally stirred Hui Yuan's heart, though hesitation lingered in his eyes. His feet had already carried him forward. In the end, he only glanced back at the golden statue once before hastily averting his gaze. Hu Jia weakly twitched his lips and hesitantly called out, eldest brother, yet he still followed along truthfully. The Hua family had left, only Hu Shu remained where she stood. She glanced at me, lips parting as if to speak, but when Luo Changlin's icy gaze swept over her, she fell silent, only managing a sardonic smile. In the empty room, I stared at the golden statue and asked him, Uncle, should we move this sculpture back? He turned his back and lit a cigarette, casually remarking, no need, melt it down. Right here, I asked in surprise and confusion. Why? We went through so much trouble to retrieve it. Through the smoke, Luo Changlin's handsome face flickered in and out of view. Little niece, haven't you heard? Casting statues of the living brings bad luck. 11. Hui Yuan. As he descended the cliffside, Hui Yuan swore he'd never tasted bitterness so sharp in the wind. Fortune had favored the young man in all things, save love, where he'd stumbled twice, first when his wife eloped with another, then when his beloved met her end at the ravine's base. At first, he paid no mind to Sang Yu, just a passing whim, yet she mistook it for divine providence. The Hua family had never seen anyone quite like her, bearing mountain simplicity and a heart of pure sincerity. The Hua family thrives on secrets and deception, where everyone wears a mask and plays their part. Only Sang Yu stands apart, so utterly different. Hu Yuan reflected on his lifelong principle, never permitting himself regret in any action. Whether it was patricide in his youth or mercilessly eliminating his scheming blood relatives or perhaps forsaking Sanyu to preserve Bayan's ashes standing at the cliff's edge, he even felt a strange lightness in his thoughts. What choice was there to make? Really, only a fool would hesitate between a lawfully wedded wife and a nameless mistress, but why? Yet his heart ached as if torn apart. He told himself it didn't matter. There would always be chances to make things right. Besides, he wasn't completely heartless towards Sangyu. He'd already arranged backup. The moment he obtained Bayan's ashes, his men would immediately rescue her, carrying his late wife's ashes back to the Ho residence. He paused in thought before ordering someone to retrieve that pink diamond ring Sanyu had always wanted. Once she's calmed down, he'd give her the surprise. Though he'd previously promised Bayan never to marry another woman. At the very least, he could give Sanyu a wedding without official registration. Sangyu's face would surely light up with delight, her sparkling eyes widening as his reflection filled her crystal-clear pupils. At this thought, his heart grew light again. He even failed to notice his subordinates' ghastly pale expressions when they returned to report Sangyu was dead. The mangled corpses pieced together into a nightmare he could never bear to revisit. So what? He told himself he wouldn't regret it. He'd warned her right from the start. With a personality like yours, staying with the Hua family would leave you completely devoured. Stop talking about sincerity. Are you out of your mind? How did Sangyu respond to him? Oh, she slit her wrist, marking a distress signal with her blood, trading half her life for his chance at survival. She said, I think it's worth it. He'd never met such a stubborn fool before, when everyone around him was so cold and heartless. Even Bayan, whose youthful affection and salvation had ultimately dissolved into the ghostly shadow of betrayal amid fame and material desires. He thought he wouldn't feel sad. People can never bring themselves to admit they've lost something priceless through their own neglect. Everyone dreads being blind to true value, don't they? So he wasn't heartbroken. Days without Sanyu just meant less chatter, less bustle, less comfort. That's all there was to it. One Christmas, he passed by the bustling shopping mall. A young, innocent girl made a wish over a birthday cake. The festive cheer amplified the joy of passers-by, making his solitude stand out in rare contrast. He stared blankly at the flickering candle flame. The tall lover beside the girl carefully presented a diamond ring after she blew out the candle. With heartfelt emotion, he blessed his beloved. Happy 26th birthday, I'm here to marry you. The memories he deliberately buried came flooding back to his heart. He remembered going to the shrine with Sangyu last year to pray, watching her kneel before the Buddha to make a wish. For my 26th birthday, I want a huge, beautiful cake, and I want to hear my love say happy birthday to me. Then, Sangyu's voice trailed off, but he caught the unspoken words she left hanging. She said, then I came to marry you. Only at this moment did the fierce cliffside wind come howling down, piercing straight through his heart. After rescuing Bayan, he coldly ignored her pitiful, pleading gaze. Bayan hung her head, her eyes filled with profound regret. Back then, she faked her death to escape. Little did she know, her so-called lover showed his true colors after squandering all her money. She's had a miserable life these past few years. Fortunately, Hu Yuan still holds a torch for her. All these years, he's kept his promise and never remarried. Tears of emotion welled up in her eyes as she called out to him with heartfelt sincerity, Yuan, I'll never leave you again. I've finally understood what's in my heart. But Hu Yuan pushed her away abruptly, his voice icy cold. I've repaid the debt I owed you from our youth. Don't contact me again. With that, Hu Yuan turned and walked away immediately. He missed Sangyu so desperately it drove him mad, yet since her departure, she'd never once appeared in his dreams. In his childhood, elders told him that when departed souls refuse to visit dreams, it means they wish never to meet again for eternity. The mere thought of this possibility made Hu Yuan feel as wretched as death itself until he learned of the Luo family's golden statue that could summon spirits with but a drop of blood from one's beloved. It could forever bind a departed soul to this world. When he arrived, his formation ritual was just one step away from completion. This time, he would never let go again, not even a wandering spirit. He wouldn't allow her to leave him anymore. He would stay with Sangyu for all eternity. 12 On the way back, Luo Changlin was in high spirits. He asked me gently, any birthday wishes for this year? I quipped casually, I want the entire Luo family fortune. Let me become a billionaire. A warm smile crinkled the corners of his eyes, radiating tenderness. Dreaming of becoming a billionaire, the Luo family fortune alone won't cut it. Unless what? He arched an eyebrow lazily. Unless you count mine in. I forced a hollow smile. Uncle, I know the difference between ambition and delusion. Luo Changlin uncharacteristically refrained from teasing me, simply stating with quiet intensity, This is neither a joke nor a pipe dream. I met his fathomless dark eyes for a moment before. Flinching away in discomposure, yet Luo Changlin kept watching me, his gaze burning with palpable intensity. His words when we left the Hua residence suddenly came back to me, casting statues of the living. My head jerked up abruptly. Luo Changlin's pale face showed neither shock nor surprise, only a quiet nostalgia and restrained sorrow. He said, "Long time no see, Songyu." I turned to Uncle Yang in the front row in surprise, only to find him calmly nodding at me with what seemed like approval. I heard myself ask hoarsely, "How did you know it was me?" Luo Changlin gave no reply. Uncle Yang sighed softly, "Miss Sang, when someone truly matters to you, you'd recognize them at a glance, even if it were just their soul." After hearing my mortal enemy argument, Luo Changlin ignored me for ages in silent fury. He glared at me for a long moment before finally growling, "What gave you the idea I consider you a rival?" Meeting his stormy expression head-on, I shot back, "That look on your face right now, you might as well be staring at your worst enemy." Uncle Yang couldn't help but chuckle, then forced an awkward smile under Luo Changlin's icy glare. Before changing the subject, he asked, "Third Master, should we proceed with the Hua family's plan?" Luo Changlin remained silent for a moment, his gaze shifting toward me. I understood his unspoken hesitation. I chuckled lightly and quipped, "Being called your lapdog is one thing, but I draw the line at being labeled a sanctimonious saint." Luo Changlin let out a soft laugh, the pallor of his face suddenly blooming with vitality. The summer night breeze swept through the hall, setting everything swaying gracefully. Even the moonlight turned tender. The softly laughing Luo Changlin seemed to have broken free from a gilded cage, finally claiming his right to freedom. After a long pause, he straightened up slowly and said, "Speaking of which, that Hua woman, what's her name, Hua Shuyu, must have had a sudden attack of conscience. She handed over all the Hua family's dirty laundry to me, only," his eyes held hesitation and a tinge of disgust, "only, she asked me to pass you a message." My smile faded. "What did she say?" Luo Changlin scoffed coldly. "She said, thank you." I was completely stunned. 13. Hua Shu stared at the puddle of golden liquid on the ground, resplendent yet gilded. It cages tormented souls just like the Hua family. The day she was taken back, she lived in a dog crate and ate slop. Frail and petite, she stood at the very bottom of the food chain. The Hua family eyed her with the contempt reserved for insects. She grew up through hardship, gradually revealing the same breathtaking bone structure as her dancer mother. Those disdainful gazes soon turned ravenous. After she killed the fifth patron who tried to claim her, Patriarch Hua finally looked at her properly for the first time. His only son needed the facade of nobility, while the Hua family required a ruthless blade. The illegitimate daughter, unfit for proper society, made the perfect candidate. No one ever asked for her opinion, not even Hua Shu herself, until that woman named Sang Yu appeared. Like everyone in the Hua family, she too thought she was foolish, yet that hopelessly naive Sang Yu would carefully tend to her wounds, remember every single birthday, and even get up in the dead of night just to make her a bowl of noodles when she came home late. Just like her unreliable mother who died young, Sang Yu would childishly hide the golden fried eggs beneath her noodles. Later, the second person who ever cooked noodles for her would also find eternal rest at the bottom of the cliffs. The moon climbed higher and higher. Hua Shu gazed quietly at the lunar orb. She'd seen lovelier moons than this, so there were no regrets left to haunt her. Torch in hand, she combed through every corner of the Hua estate. She slipped soundlessly past each room where the Hua family lay sleeping, then watched as the wicked cage that had imprisoned her life began crumbling to dust amidst the billowing smoke. Hua Jiao asked her in agony, "Why?" She chuckled lightly, "Karma should be reserved for the betrayers. The suffering of rebirth ought to be tasted by those who break faith." At the very moment the inferno was about to consume everything, Hu Yuan pushed open the door with a stormy expression. He was clutching a diary in his hand, gripping it so tightly that veins bulged across his knuckles. Upon closer inspection, his hand was trembling slightly. Hua Shu's relieved expression suddenly twisted into panic, even terror. With a hoarse voice, she screamed with all her might, "Give it back!" Yet Hu Yuan remained unmoved. The firelight cast a deranged glow on his face as he tremblingly raised that journal. His lips twisted into a grin reeking of blood. He said, "So my Sung Yu has been back all along, hasn't she?" 14. The mighty Hua family collapsed overnight, not just because of the scandals that broke this morning, but also due to a mysterious fire last night, and that fire was actually set by the second daughter of the Hua family herself. Nearly all of the Hua family's subordinates perished in that inferno, yet the family head, Hu Yuan, remains missing. Luo Changlin's expression darkened. Uncle Yang said gravely, "Third Master, the bodyguards monitoring Bai En report that Hu Yuan never visited her." Luo Changlin sneered, "How romantic." Now he's playing hard to get. Before the words faded, he was seized by a violent coughing fit. Uncle Yang hurried over and shut the window. Seeing his pale face, I said, "Enough, you're in no condition to be worrying about all this." Luo Chenglin kept his head down, his hoarse voice seething with defiance. "I'm not weak." He spat bitterly. "Who knows what tricks he'll pull next? What if he realizes you've been reborn?" I shook my head. No way. When I met Hui Yuan again, it was still atop that towering cliff, staring at this fugitive version of Hui Yuan I couldn't reconcile him with. The gentle-eyed man I'd reunited with. He bore countless wounds. Reeking of blood and gunpowder, he trapped me in his arms, his voice hoarse. "Ayu, why didn't you tell me you were back? I've been searching for you forever." I stared coldly at him while my flesh burned with searing pain beneath the surface, yet my heart remained utterly still. I gave it some thought. It was the anguished echoes of shattered souls at the cliff's base, their twilight dreams unfulfilled. She was utterly terrified, consumed by hatred. Hui Yuan continued, eyes bloodshot. "Why won't you even appear in my dreams? Do you know how much I miss you?" I nearly burst out laughing. The howling mountain wind roared in my ears like the lingering blade of past regrets. I used to think I was at least somewhat special. After all those 7 years, through countless suitors coming and going, I was the only one who stayed by his side. After all, he did pause for a fleeting moment on one of Bayan's death anniversaries when he saw me weeping bitterly, but when faced with life and death choices, love and loyalty pale into insignificance. Hui Yuan paid no heed to my aloofness. He said softly, "But I don't blame you. There'll be no one else this time, just the two of us from now on. I'll make up for all the lost time." I laughed bitterly under Hui Yuan's astonished yet profound gaze. I enunciated each word deliberately. "A future? What future could there possibly be between us?" His face turned deathly pale with panic. "Ayu, what do you mean by this?" I stared straight into his eyes. "I know you've always thought me a fool. I lack your lofty power and wealth. I'm just the worthless daughter my parents sold off. I have nothing, so all I can offer is my genuine heart." Yet I never realized, to people of their station, sincerity is the cheapest, most laughable currency. But Hui Yuan, even the fiercest gales will one day die down, and the deepest wells of devotion will eventually run dry. I looked back at him and said with the same disdain he once showed when speaking of my sincerity, "I stopped loving you long ago, Hui Yuan. I was naive, not stupid. Even if we hadn't fallen off the cliff that day, I'd never have stayed with you." I forgot to tell him about last year when I prayed at the temple. In the end, I discarded all my previous wishes and kept only the final one. That wish was simple. By the time I turned 26, I would stop loving him, walk away for good, and never see him again. Hui Yuan's face drained of color, his trembling hand reaching to touch my cheek. He pleaded, "It's my fault. I regret everything. Please don't do this to me." I just turned away in silence. After a long silence, Hui Yuan's expression shifted into the madness of unrequited desire amid the growing roar of approaching helicopters. "It doesn't matter," he declared with finality. "We still have all the time ahead of us." But this time, Hui Yuan would never get his wish. Just as he was about to force me onto the helicopter, Luo Chenglin arrived. The bullet pierced through his wrist, making him instinctively release me. I fell into an embrace that was both icy and tender. With reddened eyes and a shaken voice, Luo Chenglin murmured, thank God you're alright." His face was deathly pale, his whispered words laced with the metallic tang of blood and punctuated by labored coughs. I pulled him into an embrace, murmuring, "Easy now, it's alright, don't work yourself up." Watching from the helicopter, Hui Yuan suddenly lost all reason at the sight. Ignoring all warnings, he leaped from the aircraft in reckless abandon. He collapsed to his knees before me, sobbing uncontrollably. "Is there really no chance left at all?" As Hui Yuan pleaded desperately, my gaze remained utterly unmoved. Hui Yuan, that cliff was terrifyingly high, the chasm below was bone-chilling cold, and the sheer terror of feeling your lifeblood draining away while fully conscious, that was the most horrifying of all. Hui Yuan, kneeling before me, began to tremble violently, bowing his head even deeper. Luo Chenglin's arms holding me were also shaking slightly. "So I truly never wish to see you again, not in this life nor the next." With those final words, Luo Chenglin carried me away without hesitation. Hui Yuan stood frozen in stunned silence. Suddenly, he sprang to his feet and dashed toward the cliff edge, leaping without hesitation. None of us turned back, nor did anyone listen to his final words. 15. I remained in the hospital's intensive care bed for several days by someone's orders. I even needed permission just to get out of bed. It wasn't until the summer solstice that I finally returned to the Luo residence, surrounded by well-wishers. But when the door opened, Only Uncle Yang stood there with hopeful eyes. Luo Changlin was nowhere to be seen. Checking my phone, our chat history still froze on the day I was hospitalized. That day, Luo Changlin sent me to the hospital with a grim face, then vanished without a trace. After that, he never came to see me again. Suppressing the unease in my heart, I asked Uncle Yang, has the company been busy lately? Not at all. Is there another issue with the business? Haven't heard anything. After some thought, I asked, or did third uncle take on another sculpture commission? Uncle Yang burst out laughing. Oh my dear young mistress, who else but you could ever get third master to lift a finger? What on earth was the reason? Yet Uncle Yang avoided the subject. The next day, he delivered an asset transfer agreement. Meanwhile, the media broke the news of the engagement between the third young master of the Luo family and the Wang family's daughter from Haicheng. I froze in place, clutching the transfer document. I numbly asked, why? Uncle Yang gave me a pained, helpless look. Miss, after all, you're legally family now. I was utterly speechless. Luo Changlin never returned. All my messages went unanswered. I once overheard the servants whispering. They said Miss Wang saved third master Luo's life when he was poisoned. Without her, there would be no Luo III as we know him. With a bitter, mocking smile, I downed the last sip of liquor, wondering if I'd been cast in some cliché system novel as the stand-in for someone's white moonlight. Why the hell does everyone and their mother seem obsessed with this damn white moonlight nonsense? Memories came flooding back. Ever since Luo Changlin dismissed our mortal enemies narrative that day, I'd been carefully revisiting our shared history. I remember the first time I accompanied Hui Yuan to a party. He left me stranded alone amidst the taunts and jeers of the crowd. A stern-faced man wheeled his chair toward me. Instantly, the crowd scattered like startled birds. The man's icy glare was so intimidating, even I wanted to bolt, but the cake he handed me was so delicious that I couldn't bring myself to leave, and so, unwelcome as I was, we ended up finishing all those scrumptious cakes together in the corner. Another time, on Bayan's death anniversary, Hua Yuan left despite it being my birthday. Drunk and sobbing, I stumbled homeward until an icicle steadied my fall. I kept rambling to the pillar about my parents' neglect, about Hui Yuan's favoritism, and about my own dreams. A beautiful house, just for me alone. The surroundings should be filled with exotic plants, and don't forget the pomelo candies. The pillar listened attentively, occasionally giving me little responses. Finally, it gently patted my head and told me everything would come true. Snapping out of my memories, I stared at the empty room before me, fighting back tears. How dare you abandon me again? Grief turned to rage, and the more I thought about it, the angrier I became. After all, I now hold Luo Changlin's entire fortune. Bringing him back would be as simple as giving the order. The Luo family would never stoop to arranged marriages. To hell with the Wangs and the Lees, all of them. Next morning, Uncle Yang nervously watched me sipping coffee and asked, Miss, is your iced Americano sweet enough? I smiled at him and said, Uncle Yang, we'll discuss the sweetness of my iced Americano later. First, explain this. The Wangs of Haicheng only have one son nearing 40. Where did this 20-year-old daughter come from? Uncle Yang pulled out a handkerchief to wipe his cold sweat. Well, about that, don't tell me Luo Changlin has developed a taste for this sort of thing now. Uncle Yang was so flustered he could practically see steam coming off his head, but couldn't come up with a decent excuse. I said softly, just tell me, is Luo Changlin ill? Uncle Yang froze, then nodded with profound sorrow. 16. I'd considered countless possibilities, yet never imagined Luo Changlin was dying. Behind the thick glass, a gaunt and pallid Luo Changlin lay motionless on the hospital bed with closed eyes. My lips parted wordlessly as breath fogged the glass. Though midsummer outside, the ICU felt colder than the dead of winter. Uncle Yang consoled heavily from the side. Third master's condition, just as old. Ailment flaring up again. He said the illness had been plaguing him on and off for years, but the day he heard of my death, he coughed up blood from sheer distress. He'd lost the will to live, yet clung on just to settle scores for you. Uncle Yang wiped his eyes. Thank heavens you've been brought back to him. I listened numbly, my heart aching with each throbbing beat. Is there really no other way? Uncle Yang shook his head helplessly. The doctors proposed surgery, but the success rate is too low. Even if successful, it might leave him with mobility issues. Third master refuses to go through with it. In the dead of night, Luo Changlin woke. I stood by the bedside, gazing at him in silence. He chuckled softly. What's wrong? Aren't you supposed to be overjoyed now that you're a billionaire? My face remained stony. Luo Changlin spoke at great length. He said everything was arranged for me. Uncle Yang and his team would handle all the assets and company matters. Finally, he handed me the key to that cottage. Seeing the look of contentment on his face, I began trembling slightly. I nodded in satisfaction. That's reassuring to hear, third uncle. Now that I've achieved career success and financial stability, I'd like to experience the bittersweet taste of love again. If you've finished your last words, I won't disturb you further. After all, the marriage alliance Uncle Yang arranged for me with his younger brother is waiting. Cracks began to appear on Luo Chenglin's composed expression. His breathing grew labored behind the oxygen mask under the icy glare of disapproval. Uncle Yang averted his eyes and mumbled, "Come now, third master, I never took you for the petty type." Luo Chenglin looked ready to faint from sheer exasperation with the two of us. Not content with that, Uncle Yang leaned in to whisper in his ear, "Master Luo, that Huishu is still alive. She even came to confess her feelings to Miss Sang yesterday." Luo Chenglin's brows furrowed deeply, as if he'd heard something filthy, preposterous. "A woman like her." Uncle Yang cut him off. "Master, love knows no gender. Besides, Miss Hua is downright dashing." The sunglasses-wearing bodyguard nodded in agreement beside us. Luo Chenglin's face darkened like spilled ink. I stood up to leave. "Uncle, I'm running late for my appointment, so I'll take my leave." "Wait," he called out urgently through gritted teeth. "I'm not beyond saving yet." "Don't be so eager, Uncle Yang. Have the doctor scheduled a surgery tonight." A wave of relief washed over me as I turned back with a faint smile. "Fine, I'll grudgingly wait a little longer." On the day of the surgery, I called out to Luo Chenglin. He shot an awkward glance at Uncle Yang and the others before speaking with conflicted anticipation. "Save your love confessions for private moments." I chuckled softly. "What are you thinking? I'm just asking, if the surgery succeeds, will the asset transfer agreement still be valid?" Luo Chenglin refused to speak to me right up until they wheeled him into the operating room at the very last moment before entering. The sullen and fuming Luo Chenglin struggled up from his bed. "If you won't say it, I will." "Sang you, damn it, I like you, I love you." Everyone burst into laughter, yet seeing his frail figure in surgical gown filled us with overwhelming sorrow, choking back hot tears. I yelled back, all right, I love you too. Damn it." Luo Chenglin laughed with uncontainable joy during the long wait. I fell into an endless dream. In that dream, I was 14 again. One day while gathering pigweed in the mountains with mother, she abandoned me by the roadside. The mountains in my hometown tower high and stretch deep, their darkness at night so thick it feels devouring. I wept under the tree, utterly helpless and despairing, until a frail young boy spotted me. With clumsy care, he tended to my wounds and carried me back to the village entrance. As we parted, he mentioned he was the son of the town's apothecary. Through tears, I looked at his gentle face and sobbed, "I don't want to go back. My life's already ruined beyond repair." I told him my parents wanted to discard me like unwanted baggage to make room for a son. He quickly pulled out a pomelo candy to comfort me, then asked for my name. I said, "My name is Zhou Morning Girl." He froze momentarily, his eyes reflecting shock and heartache. He said, "This name won't do. Let me give you a new one, Songyu." "Why?" He smiled, his face bathed in the golden sunset glow, radiating tenderness. He said, "The twilight years are not too late. With skies ablaze and afterglow, you'll have a wonderful, long life ahead." "Will someone love me then?" "Without a doubt." But later, my younger brother snatched that pomelo candy, and after a brutal beating from my parents, I tumbled down the hillside. I've completely forgotten about that boy and the promise to seek him out if ever homeless. Yet I remember with absolute clarity, my name is Songyu. The dream dissolved at the attending physician's reminder. His face lit up with emotion. "Miss Sang, the surgery was a complete success." Soft sobs and cheers rose around us. With tears of joy in my eyes, I gazed out the window. The summer sunset painted the sky in its timeless, breathtaking splendor. "This is the sweetest reunion." Luo Chenglin's side story. Meeting Songyu could only be described as a con. As a youth, he found a heartbroken little girl weeping in the mountains. He saved lives, gave his all, offered kindness, only to have his heart broken in the end. What rotten luck. No matter how you look at it. He kept waiting in town for her, but the girl never showed up again. On his 17th birthday, he returned home only to face a life-altering catastrophe. His parents were reported to have died on their way to collect medicinal herbs in another town. A formidable middle-aged man told him with profound sorrow he was a friend of his mother's who could take him in. Today, he came to take the boy with him to the capital city. He didn't want to leave. He was still waiting for that little liar to come find him, but he had no choice. That so-called friend of his mother's practically dragged him away by force. In the capital, he became the Luo family's adopted son. His adoptive father held him in high regard, but his two stepbrothers couldn't stand the sight of him. After enduring countless acts of bullying on the day he received his share of equity, the two men he'd called brothers for 5 years poisoned him together. The poison nearly took half his life. By his hospital bed, his adoptive father wept bitterly, begging him not to seek justice. His lifelong efforts had all been poured into those two sons. Luo Chenglin gazed at his foster father's hair, now streaked with gray, remembering years of his care and kindness. Luo swallowed his grievances whole, but then, one fateful day arrived, he stumbled upon this shocking truth. The man he called foster father was his biological parent all along. The man abandoned her mother for power and status, yet after achieving success, greed took root in his heart. The car crash that claimed his parents' lives was no accident. The boy's world crumbled as he knelt before his parents' graves through the night. With thunderous retribution, he sent both his brothers and so-called adoptive father to prison, but the poison had ravaged his body, reducing him to the gloomy cripple whispered about in aristocratic circles, until one fateful banquet. It was the anniversary of his parents' death. His imprisoned foster father sent him another letter through an intermediary. The letter was full of bullshit confessions. I laughed bitterly in rage. Like hell, I'm your father. Because of him, he had no choice but to walk toward the frozen lake as usual. Only the icy, bone-chilling lake water could numb the agony in his soul, yet jumping with him was a fool. That country girl adopted by the Hua family, her hair dripping wet, she glared in fury. How could you be so reckless with your life? He stood frozen, staring at her face, but Song Yu had completely forgotten him, fawning over Hui Yuan like a lapdog. The bitterness nearly made him vomit blood, yet what truly shattered his heart was Song Yu's death. The evening sky that day was devoid of sunset hues. Luo Chenglin felt as though he too had perished. He calmly prepared his final arrangements. Once he avenged Sang Yu, he would join her, yet unexpectedly, heaven granted him its greatest surprise. He watched as Luo Qian clumsily carved a magnolia blossom with her left hand, his breath catching in his throat with tension. When Song Yu was 14, in those remote mountains, she had once carved him a magnolia from wild fruit too. He could never mistake her. When it's someone who matters, one glance feels like coming home. Next story. My ex-husband committed suicide. After his death, I accidentally saw his diary and finally learned the truth behind our divorce. There was never any mistress, no infidelity, only his fragmented, fleeting life. By chance, I traveled back 15 years and met 11-year-old Pei Song again. When there was still time for everything, I chose to stand in front of the weak and helpless him, telling him, "Don't be afraid, I'll protect you." Less than a year after the divorce, my ex-husband Pei Song committed suicide. I received a call from back home. The person said he was a policeman. He said Pei Song was dead, had jumped into the sea to kill himself, and asked me to return to identify his body. Suicide by jumping into the sea. How could that be? I was the one who taught him how to swim, not to mention he just transferred alimony to my account yesterday, just one day later, and he's dead. Thinking it was another international prank, I replied, didn't he get married again? Why look for his ex-wife instead of his current wife? After identifying their unit and badge number, the voice on the phone continued, Mr. Pei Song was never married. You're the only contact we could find for him. The moment I realized it was true, tears gushed from my eyes as if I'd been struck by lightning. After that, I couldn't hear anything else. The police said Pei Song and I had been married for 4 years when I discovered his infidelity. We divorced amicably. He offered to leave with nothing, but I refused, letting him keep the house while taking only half of our savings before moving to Germany. Apart from transferring his monthly salary to me, we had no further contact. I took the first flight back in a daze, only to find a bloated, unrecognizable Pei Song in an advanced state of decomposition. The seawater had swollen and rotted his body beyond recognition. Only our wedding ring on his finger allowed me to identify him. After Pei Song was buried, his lawyer He Ping found me and handed over the cat Pei Song had raised to me. The cat is named Song Song. It was a birthday gift I gave Pei Song for his 21st birthday. Before committing suicide, Pei Song asked He Ping to take care of the cat for a few days. Song Song doesn't know its owner is gone. He Ping said Pei Song left me a house and 730,000 in savings as compensation. This was nearly everything he had too. I pressed He Ping, why did Pei Song commit suicide? He Ping said, dissociative conversion disorder, a long accumulated depressive mood spiraling out of control. I don't believe it. Pei Song was clearly such a rational person. What exactly could have pushed him step by step toward death? He Ping's expression turned grave. I don't know if what I'm doing is right, but I think you have the right to know the truth. He handed me a USB drive. You might not be aware since you're abroad, but the videos on this USB have been maliciously spread and circulated online over the past year. They even posted it on the forum of the university where Professor Pei worked, causing him to lose his job. Later, Professor Pei's dissociative conversion disorder relapsed, which might be one of the reasons for Mr. Pei Song's suicide. The USB drive contained hundreds of videos showing 12-year-old Pei Song being violated and humiliated. In the videos, he appeared utterly desperate and helpless. Just one video made me feel unbearably tormented, with a deep sense of powerlessness spreading through my entire body. It felt as if countless needles suddenly pierced me, causing excruciating pain in every organ. I couldn't believe that my husband, whom I treasured dearly, had been treated so cruelly. How much pain he must have endured. With a trembling voice on the verge of tears, I pointed at the abuser in the video and asked He Ping, "Who is he? Did he also spread the video?" He Ping, his name is Zhu Mo, Pei Song's stepfather. After Pei Song's mother died of cancer, he began abusing Pei Song for over a year. Then he abandoned Pei Song at an orphanage and used these videos to blackmail him, extorting large sums of money every year, until a year ago, Zhu Mo, deep in gambling debt, made an outrageous demand for 2 million from Pei Song. When refused, he angrily leaked the videos online before fleeing abroad illegally. He remains at large to this day. I listened silently, my heart aching as if cut by knives. He had endured so much alone during times I never knew. Later, I found Pei Song's diary, densely filled with records of the days and nights he endured torment, along with countless nightmares he could never escape. His parents, teachers, classmates, friends, none of them ever treated him kindly, and their abuse became a shadow that Pei Song could never shake off in his life. Yet, he saw me as the only light in his bleak and hopeless existence, the last straw in his sorrowful life. His brief 26 years came to an abrupt end, yet he said, "I am finally free." He said, "The only one I feel guilty toward is my wife." After reading all the diaries, my tears fell like rain. I should have noticed earlier. I shouldn't have let him face all this alone. 3. Our wedding photo still hangs on the wall in the room, capturing the slight curve of his lips as he looked at me. Suddenly, I remembered our freshman year. The second year of my relentless pursuit of him, when we sat by the window in a corner of the library. He read his book, and I watched him. He lifted his gaze to meet mine, his voice soft and bitter. "Xie Qiao, do I really deserve your affection like this? You don't even know me." And what did I say then? I leaned close, whispering in his ear, "Of course you do. You deserve the best in this world." His face flushed with anger, tinged slightly red, his already pale lips bitten until they reddened. He gazed deeply at me, as if mustering great resolve. "Xie Qiao, I agree." Distracted, I lost myself in his beautiful amber eyes. Agree to what? When I finally processed it, I was so thrilled I nearly jumped. "Really? Before I could finish speaking, his slender hand covered my mouth. Afraid I'd get so excited I'd run around the library, I pried his hand away and kissed him right on the lips. His face instantly turned red all the way to the back of his ears, as if about to drip blood. Feeling smug, I planted another kiss on his cheek. "You're already my boyfriend, still scared of me kissing you." I thought I was the passive one in our relationship, but in his diary, he wrote, "Jiao Jiao, I'm so glad you came. I was walking alone in the darkness, thinking I would be forever lost in the night, but only you came to me with a lamp, wanting to take my hand and lead me toward brighter places. Every moment with you feels like stolen time, so I tread carefully, afraid you might not love me, yet also afraid you might love me too much, afraid you'd discover my broken past, afraid you'd grow to despise me." I hugged the diary and cried. Even the affair I thought had happened turned out to be just his stupid ploy to divorce me, for I kept rereading the diary that recorded Pei Song's entire life until, at some point, I fell into a deep sleep. In the dream, a voice asked me, "Do you want to see him again?" "I do." Then my consciousness suddenly cleared. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to 15 years ago. Back then, I was 12 years old, he was 11, and there was still time for everything. Originally, I was supposed to transfer schools during the second semester of my senior year at 17, becoming Pei Song's desk mate at the new school. But now, the timeline had to be moved up. At my insistence, my parents finally agreed to let me transfer to the middle school Pei Song attended, bringing our meeting 5 years earlier than fate intended. Onfing Middle School, Class 1-1. Standing at the podium introducing myself to the class, "I'm Xie Qiao, the new transfer student." My eyes kept scanning through the group of children until they landed on a dark-skinned, skinny, short boy sitting by the trash can in the back row, wearing faded clothes. He looked like an awkward little outcast compared to his classmates, but I recognized him at first glance. It was Xiao Pei Song. My eyes still welled up. I thought I'd never see him again. He was as thin as Pei Song in his senior year, only back then he wasn't as dark and short as now. The teacher told me to choose an empty seat, so I walked straight toward Pei Song and, ignoring the others' gazes, sat right beside him. He didn't look at me, just kept searching through the drawer with his head down, but after a long while found nothing. I knew he was avoiding me. He wasn't good at interacting with strangers. I greeted him. "Hello, my name is Xie Qiao." And you, only when he heard me speak did he stop what he was doing and timidly reply, Pei Song. Pei Song still refused to look at me, clearly unwilling to exchange another word. I couldn't help but stare at his spindly legs, no thicker than my arms, an 11-year-old boy with the stature of an 8 or 9-year-old. His sallow hair and sunken cheeks gave every appearance of malnutrition. It pained me just to look at him. Pei Song's biological father died when he was 8, after which he lived with his remarried mother. His stepfather treated him as an unwanted burden, beating and berating him while his mother turned a blind eye. Sometimes when the couple argued, they would both take their anger out on Pei Song. After his mother died of cancer when he was 12, Pei Song was sexually assaulted by his stepfather before being abandoned at an orphanage. These were all things I only learned from Pei Song's diary after his death. He never willingly spoke about his past in front of me. Now that I'm back, Pei Song's life is just beginning, and I absolutely won't let him repeat those mistakes. I must make everyone who ever wronged Pei Song pay the price. Before his mother passes away, I'll do everything possible to have my parents adopt him, completely freeing him from that suffocating future described in the diary. 5. During breakfast, everyone gradually took out their own meals to eat. I opened the breakfast my mom prepared, a box of sushi, 2 eggs, a carton of milk, 3 shumai, plus a Swiss roll. That's my mom for you. She knows my tastes inside out. Beside me, Pei Song pulled out a white plastic bag from his worn-out backpack, containing just one small steamed bun, clearly not the school's breakfast either. It's downright heartless. In that household, Pei Song had to work and serve them, yet he couldn't even get enough to eat. No wonder. At an age when he should be growing, Pei Song remained thin and small. Probably noticing my gaze, he subtly shielded the object with his arm. Eating just one small bun for breakfast, no matter who you are, would leave anyone starving with their stomachs growling by noon. Dismissal. This thought made my blood boil instantly. I enthusiastically called out to the girl sitting in front of me, "This is sushi my mom made. It's delicious. You should try some." After giving each of them 2 pieces, I naturally pushed the last 2 sushi pieces in the box towards Pei Song. "Pei Song, you should try some too. It's really delicious." Pei Song shook his head. "No need. I have something to eat." He stubbornly turned his head towards the window. I pushed the box closer again, grinning. "I promise, it's really tasty. If I'm lying, I'm a dog." Pei Song hesitated for a moment, but seeing the 2 girls in front eating quite naturally, he followed suit by picking up a piece of sushi and putting it in his mouth. "Is it delicious?" Pei Song nodded. "MHM. I continued looking at him expectantly with my face raised. "If it's good, have another piece." Pei Song picked up another piece and ate it, though it took some effort. Pei Song managed to eat 2 pieces of sushi, which at least filled his stomach a little, but ultimately wasn't satisfying enough. I pointed at the bun Pei Song was covering with his hand. "Pei Song, I want to eat your bun." Pei Song looked at me with confusion, his eyes full of puzzlement, but when he thought about having just eaten my sushi, he couldn't bring himself to refuse, only stammering, "The bun is a bit hard." "No problem. My teeth are strong," I said, directly taking it from the plastic bag and taking a bite. Damn, it really was hard, cold and tough to chew. How heartless. Even the bun was rock solid. Noticing Pei Song staring intently at me, I feigned composure, eating the bun without changing my expression, and even remarked between bites, "Not bad, the bun's alright." After finally finishing the steamed buns, I pushed the milk and eggs toward him firmly. "I ate your breakfast, so I'm giving you these eggs and milk in exchange. No refusing," I deliberately emphasized. The last 4 words. Pei Song, afraid of upsetting me, finally accepted them. Only under my watchful eye did he manage to eat all the eggs and milk. These tactics were lessons I learned from the 17-year-old Pei Song. Back then, he wouldn't eat the breakfast I brought unless I was sharing it with many people. Only then would he reluctantly accept a little. This trick worked like a charm on him every time. After eating breakfast, he looked much more energetic. Apparently his listless appearance had just been from hunger. I made up my mind to fatten Pei Song up no matter what. 6. Pei Song sat in the corner of the classroom all day, with almost no one talking to him. I started taking the initiative to make conversation. "Pei Song, can I borrow your eraser?" "Pei Song, I'm sleepy and gonna take a nap. Wake me up if the teacher comes." During one class, I could call Pei Song's name dozens of times, and even pull him aside to chat during breaks. He never got annoyed, just listened to me talk and handed me the eraser. When I dozed off in class and the teacher approached, he'd awkwardly tug my sleeve and whisper for me to wake up. In the diary, 11-year-old Pei Song appears lonely, his childish handwriting slightly askew as he writes, "No one wants to be friends with me. I came so I could be his friend." During the break between classes, several boys walked to the back of the classroom holding drink bottles. standing 2 meters away as they started tossing them into the trash bin just as I returned from fetching water outside. I saw a boy named Wang Li hurl a half-full bottle directly at Pei Song, who was sleeping on his desk, then quickly throw a second and third bottle. Bang, bang, bang. The dull sound of a heavy object hitting flesh echoed through the classroom. Pei Song couldn't dodge in time, grimacing in pain as his face contorted slightly. The group of boys started jeering. "You're supposed to throw it into the trash can, not at the trash itself. Can't you even do that?" "Right." Wang Li then taunted Pei Song with a mocking tone. "Hey, you next to the trash can, pick up that bottle and throw it in properly." Pei Song glanced at the arrogant boys, then at the bottle beside the trash can. He bent down, preparing to pick up the drink bottle that had hit him and toss it into the bin. The way Wang Li and those boys were so skilled at bossing around and bullying Pei Song. They must have been tormenting him like this regularly. I was furious and swung the water bottle I had just filled, smashing it hard against Wang Li's back. Wang Li yelped in pain and turned around. "Who was that? Who hit me? That really hurt. So you know it hurts too. If it hurts, why do you do it to others?" Wang Li, flushed with anger, tried to hit me, but as soon as he raised his hand, I firmly grabbed it and delivered a resounding slap across his face, followed by an over-the-shoulder throw that sent him crashing to the ground. At this age, girls are often slightly taller than boys, and having been sent to learn Taekwondo since childhood, taking him down was effortless for me. Wang Li lay on the ground, clutching his hand and howling in pain. My hand is broken." "Broken?" I crouched down, prying open the hand he was clutching. "Even if it's broken, you're going to pick up that bottle you threw." "Ah, ouch ouch ouch, let go. I'll pick it up, I'll pick it up." "All right." Wang Li screamed in pain. The whole class gathered around as Wang Li awkwardly picked up the scattered drink bottles from the floor and threw them into the trash bin. "See, you could throw it in just fine." Pei Song looked visibly shocked by the scene, probably never expecting me to stand up for him like this. Wang Li was always the type to bully the weak and fear the strong. Seeing he couldn't beat me, he ran out crying. The boys who had gathered around also scattered like frightened birds, afraid they'd be next. Pei Song picked up my water bottle from the ground, wiped it clean, and handed it to me hesitantly. "Your water bottle. He'll go tell the teacher on you." "It's fine, I'm not afraid. He bullied you first. I saw it all. Why are you helping me?" Pei Song's words were spoken very softly and without much confidence. He had been bullied for more than just a day or two, but no one had ever stood up for him before. I looked into his eyes seriously. "Aren't we desk mates? It's only right that I help you." "Pei Song, thank you." These two words were uttered so lightly they were almost inaudible, but I still managed to hear them. I secretly rejoiced. Apparently, the 11-year-old Pei Song was much easier to approach than the 17-year-old version. "That's good." 7. Sure enough, just before school ended, I was called out by the homeroom teacher. Pei Song looked at me with concern, worried I'd be scolded or punished for what happened earlier. I didn't care. Before leaving, I reassured him, "Don't worry, nothing will happen." And indeed, nothing did. My parents might not have much else, but their ability to protect their kid is top-notch. In the office, on one side were Wang Li with several layers of bandages wrapped around his arm and the red mark of a slap still visible on his face, along with his parents. On the other side were my parents, who had been urgently summoned by the teacher before they could even leave work. Seeing Wang Li in that state, my mother grabbed my hand and whispered, "What kind of grudge is this? You dislocated his arm. And that huge slap mark on his face, TSK. Did you insist on transferring to this school just to beat him up?" Me, truly my mother. Her thought process is something else. My father clearly stated that he would cover all medical expenses and compensate for emotional distress. Upon hearing my father's willingness to compensate for emotional distress, the other parents' expression softened slightly, but they still insisted I apologize publicly, otherwise demanding the school expel me. Me, I won't apologize, but Wang Li must publicly apologize to Pei Song. He bullied classmates, otherwise we'll call the police to handle this. My father frowned after hearing my words, then turned to stare at Wang Li. "I didn't do it." Wang Li began arguing with the teacher and parents. "It wasn't intentional. I just accidentally hit him when throwing the bottle into the trash can." Without another word, my dad demanded the teacher pull up the classroom surveillance footage. The footage revealed Wang Li's true malicious nature beneath his harmless appearance, showing him bullying Pei Song in front of their classmates. The other parents' faces turned pale, then flushed with anger. They never expected their well-behaved child to be a bully who falsely accused others at school. Knowing they were in the wrong, they never brought up demanding an apology from me again. Wang Li was brought by his parents to face Pei Song, demanded to apologize. Reluctantly, Wang Li bowed to Pei Song. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have bullied you. Can you forgive me? Surrounded by people, Wang Li, his parents, and teachers, all waiting for Pei Song's response. The weight of their unfriendly stares made it hard to breathe. Pei Song just stood there. His lips moved slightly as if he wanted to say something but couldn't bring himself to speak, the stubbornness in his eyes growing stronger. Seeing Pei Song like this, I began to regret why I had put him in such a position, forcing him to forgive those who had bullied him. I stepped forward and took Pei Song's hand. If you don't want to forgive, then we won't. Don't force yourself. He did wrong, and he brought this upon himself. Then I simply took him away, leaving those people standing there, exposed to everyone's gaze. Wang Li doesn't deserve forgiveness at all. 8. Holding Pei Song's hand, I walked up to my parents and introduced him. Dad, Mom, this is a new friend I made today. His name is Pei Song. Pei Song was somewhat surprised. No one had ever formally introduced him to their parents like this before, especially as a friend. Hello, uncle and auntie, he said softly. Oh, hello, Xiao Pei. My mom was particularly enthusiastic about inviting all sorts of my friends over for meals. Sure enough, she warmly extended an invitation to Pei Song. Xiao Pei, come over to our place this weekend. I'll cook something delicious for you all. My dad chimed in. Right, come to our place and stay with Aqiao. You can help uncle keep an eye on her studies and make sure she doesn't just play around all day. Pei Song was a bit overwhelmed by my parents' enthusiasm but still responded politely. Okay, uncle and auntie, this suited me perfectly. Now I'd have an excuse to bring him home for meals and let him bond with my parents beforehand. At this point, there were still nearly 3 months left before the time mentioned in the diary when Zhu Mo would make his move against Pei Song. But I had to start planning early. After all, every second Pei Song spent near that demon was another moment of danger. After I taught Wang Li a lesson this time, those who had bullied Pei Song in class no longer dared to bully him casually. My relationship with Pei Song also grew much closer. I started bringing an extra portion of breakfast every morning, using the excuse that my mom had prepared too much, and then begged Pei Song to help me finish it. Pei Song couldn't resist my persistent pleading and agreed to help me eat one steamed bun every day, but refused to take more. To make sure he had enough to eat, I asked my mom to replace the original small vegetable buns with extra large meat-filled ones. Hearing his stomach growl during evening self-study, and then watching him try to mask it by drinking water, I immediately dragged him to the noodle shop outside the school after class, saying I was too hungry for a midnight snack but was afraid to go alone at night. Ordered 2 bowls of beef noodles at the noodle shop and made him eat with me. He could never win against my persistence, always obediently keeping me company after meals. He'd quietly follow behind me, insisting on walking me home even if it wasn't on his way, only turning back after seeing me safely inside. When school occasionally handed out free meal coupons, I'd claim I disliked cafeteria food and preferred eating at home, then stuff them all into Pei Song's hands so he could have a proper lunch too. On weekends I'd drag him to my place for tutoring. My mom, feeling sorry for him, would always prepare a lavish spread and insist he stay for dinner, with the 3 of us each adding portions to his bowl. It'd be piled high in no time. Gazing at the occasional smile that Pei Song reveals, I often wish time could freeze forever in this moment. 9. Until the day Pei Song came to school injured and stood before me, completely shattering my illusion. There was a long wound on his jaw, the mark of a sharp weapons cut, clearly man-made. Who hit you? I asked him. No. Swear you're not lying to me. Pei Song remained silent, tacitly admitting he'd been beaten. It was your stepfather. He nodded. It suddenly occurred to me that after Pei Song and I got together, I had asked him how he got the scar on his jaw. He said it was from a childhood fall, but it turns out he was lying to me. The scar I had kissed countless times was actually a mark left by domestic violence. I couldn't bear to imagine that every time I kissed it, it must have reminded him of those unbearable nightmares. Come to the hospital with me, I said, pulling Pei Song to leave. He sat rigidly in the chair, refusing to move. It's just a minor injury, it'll heal in a few days. No, if left untreated, it'll leave a scar. I don't want you to have a scar, I said seriously. Seeing he still wouldn't budge, I sighed. Fine, just stay seated here, I'll be right back. I went to the infirmary to get medicine from the doctor, then returned to tend to Pei Song's wound. It might sting a little, I'll be quick. I used alcohol to clean his wound. The wound was deep, alcohol would definitely hurt, yet he didn't make a single sound the whole time, his eyes silently enduring the pain. My heart ached for him, tears welling up uncontrollably in my eyes. Pei Song noticed and anxiously reached out to wipe my tears. Are you crying for me? I nodded and carefully applied the band-aid to the wound. You need to take care of yourself. It seemed no one had ever cared for him like this before, Pei Song thought. After a brief daze, he replied, okay, 10. One evening after self-study class, I dragged him out to eat. Again, while browsing the menu, I was thinking about what dishes Pei Song might like sitting across from me. He gazed out the window and suddenly asked, Xie Qiao, why are you so nice to me? I looked at him, hesitated for 2 seconds, still unsure how to begin, when I heard him say, is it because you pity me? Pei Song's gaze fell upon the elderly scavenger begging from passers-by outside the shop outside the window. The old man was barely clothed, with disabled legs that left him sitting on the ground. The passers-by hurried along, and only after a long while would someone stop to toss some loose change into his bowl before rushing away again. No one knows when the next person to stop for the elderly will arrive. My heart skipped a beat as I followed Pei Song's gaze to the scavenging old man. My hands paused, and I slowly said, no. Do I deserve you being so good to me? He asked again. In that moment, I nearly burst into tears. In a daze, I seemed to see the young Pei Song before me, gradually merging with the lover from my memories. I looked earnestly into his eyes and said solemnly, you deserve it. You deserve the best in this world. Will you always be my friend? He asked cautiously, as if inquiring yet also seeking confirmation to confirm whether the love he once yearned for but couldn't obtain had truly come to him this time, rather than being an illusion or charity that would shatter upon waking. Yes, I said hoarsely, my eyes reddening, I will always be your friend. The tense expression on Pei Song's face faded, replaced by an unprecedented sense of peace. The pitch-black night that had seemed devoid of light since his youth now faintly revealed a glimmer of hope. 11. After living like this for some time, he no longer looked as sallow and emaciated as when they first met, yet he remained haggard, often zoning out during class and frequently lacking energy. I knew it was because he had to care for his mother Ma Ying, who was already terminally ill. Ma Ying's liver cancer had been diagnosed several months prior. By then, tumors had spread throughout her entire liver, marking the late stage. His stepfather Zhu Mo refused to spend money on a woman he deemed worthless, coaxing Ma Ying into abandoning treatment just to preserve the funds for himself. Because of this, Ma Ying missed the optimal treatment period. Her condition became increasingly unstable and deteriorated day by day. Now she is like the setting sun, relying solely on Pei Song for care. Yet even so, Ma Ying continued to verbally and physically abuse Pei Song, venting all her anger on him and blaming him for all her misfortunes. Until her death, she never showed Pei Song even a shred of love. The thought of her impending death fills me with an inexplicable sense of satisfaction. A person like her is utterly unworthy of being a mother, let alone deserving to live at this point. She has only 2 months left to live, but letting her die just like that would be letting her off too easily. So, I chose the day recorded in the diary when my stepfather Zhu Mo took all the money from our home. I deliberately had someone collect photos of Zhu Mo fooling around and sleeping with other women, along with records of him secretly transferring money to support a child outside. I sent all these to Ma Ying under the name of Zhu Mo's mistress, taunting her, when you die, all of this will belong to me and my son. You stupid woman, why aren't you dead yet? Let the waters be muddied even more. Watching dogs fight is quite a spectacle. I want her to die in agony, filled with 1,000 times more hatred and pain. 12. But on the same afternoon I sent out those photos, Pei Song didn't come to school. Sitting in the classroom, staring at the empty seat beside me, I felt an inexplicable panic and began repeatedly recalling the contents and details of Pei Song's diary. The diary clearly states that after Pei Song returned home from school, he learned that Zhu Mo had taken the bank card and passbook from Ma Ying's hands while Pei Song was away. During the argument, Ma Ying was also injured by Zhu Mo, who hit her leg. According to the diary's record, Pei Song should be at school right now. If he's not at school, then unease and fear instantly gripped my heart. Why is it different this time? Why isn't he at school? I had no time to think. I hurriedly climbed over the school wall and rushed out. With no cars on the road, I could only run like mad toward Pei Song's house. An unknown terror took hold of me, and the panic in my heart reached its peak. I rushed over and entered his half-open door to see a man crouching with his back to me, desperately choking Ma Ying's neck as her struggles were nearly subdued. The woman's face was flushed red, on the verge of suffocation. Beneath Zhu Mo's feet lay the motionless Pei Song. The back of Pei Song's head was split open, blood streaming down his face from the wound, pooling in a bright red puddle beneath his skull. My vision turned red with rage. I suddenly grabbed a blood-stained hammer from the floor and swung it violently at Zhu Mo. Thud, a dull thump echoed as he collapsed. Ma Ying, who had been in his choking grasp, finally broke free and gasped for air in ragged breaths. My mind was in chaos as I stumbled towards Pei Song, calling his name, but he showed no response. He was frighteningly hot to the touch, completely unconscious, with blood still gushing from his hand. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't stop the bleeding. Trembling, I took out my phone, dialed 120 for an ambulance, then called 110 to report to the police before shouting angrily at the woman who did this. Pei Song shielded me from Zhu Mo's glass bottle and hammer, the disheveled woman said in a hoarse, tearful voice. If it weren't for protecting me, he wouldn't have. I watched in despair as Pei Song lay half dead in a pool of blood, crying and calling his name repeatedly. Wake up, Pei Song, Pei Song. Pei Song, driven by hatred, I reached out and picked up the hammer from the ground again, swinging it toward the man on the floor. But before it could hit him, Ma Ying caught it with her hand and wrested the hammer I had intended to smash into the man's head from my grip. You can't kill him. He was just trying to kill you and your son. I screamed at her through tears that blurred my vision. Save Pei Song first. I looked at Pei Song. Yes, Pei Song. Save Pei Song first, but the ambulance still hasn't arrived. In despair, I carried the blood-soaked Pei Song on my back and rushed out the door. As I ran into the courtyard carrying Pei Song, a tremendous explosion sounded behind me. A wave of scorching heat surged toward us. Realizing what was happening, I desperately ran beyond the heat's reach. I turned around and looked back only after running out of the courtyard. That woman stood amidst the flames, gradually being consumed along with everything around her in less than 10 seconds. The entire house was instantly reduced to a blazing inferno, with roaring flames shooting skyward, devouring everything. Carrying Pei Song on my back, I desperately ran toward open ground and never looked back again. I collapsed in front of the arriving ambulance, and the nurses hastily loaded Pei Song onto the vehicle before I followed aboard. Doctors and nurses were desperately trying to save Pei Song. Trembling, I took out my phone and called the fire emergency number again. That woman is truly insane, as crazy as I am, no, even crazier than me. 13. The nurses rushed Pei Song into the emergency room. I collapsed onto a chair, my mind filled with the image of Pei Song covered in blood. The fear of losing him again suffocated me. When I saw my parents hurrying to the hospital to find me, I finally broke down in their arms, crying, Mom, will Pei Song die? My mother stroked my head and said, No, Xiao Song is a good boy, he will definitely recover. We waited anxiously outside together. When the doctor came out, my father rushed forward and asked, Doctor, how is my child? Because he was brought in relatively promptly, he's already out of life-threatening danger, the doctor replied. Hearing that Pei Song was safe, the heavy weight in my heart finally lifted. Pei Song slowly regained consciousness in the early hours of the morning. Upon waking, he saw me and my parents by his side, overjoyed at his awakening. For the first time, Pei Song felt that it was truly good to be alive. Still shaken, I asked Pei Song, weren't you supposed to be at school at that time? Why were you still at home? I went back to get the jade pendant my father left for me. He said to give it to the most important person. I wanted to give it to you, but I lost it, Pei Song replied weakly, yet earnestly answering my question. Tears streamed down my face as I pulled out an intricately carved jade pendant from my pocket and asked with a trembling voice, Is this the one you meant? It was the object he tightly clutched in his hand while unconscious. This jade pendant, he had once given me one too. I always thought it was just an ordinary ornament, but it turns out to be something like this. Pei Song nodded. This is the one. So it was because of me that he got implicated. I returned the jade pendant to him. Keep important things safe. In the future, if you still think I'm important, you can give it to me again. Pei Song just put the things away, he Ping said. Pei Song left me an apartment and 730,000 in savings as compensation, and these were nearly all he had. I thought of Ma Ying. What was she thinking when she dragged Zhu Mo to their deaths? Was there even a moment of regret for never having treated her own biological son well? I will never know the answers to these questions. But the fire, she said, allowed Pei Song to rise from the ashes. After Pei Song fully recovered, with his consent, Dad took us and moved away, completely leaving this city behind. All of this has finally come to a complete end. 14. It took me a long time and considerable effort to help Pei Song emerge from the shadows of his past. My parents have always been exceptionally good at raising children. They possess abundant love and respect, and they spared no effort in caring for Pei Song, to the point where I sometimes wondered who their real child actually was. Thus, Pei Song also became a child raised in love. We grew up accompanying each other, almost inseparable, sharing every important stage of life together. I feel fortunate to reunite with Pei Song once again, witnessing him embark on a completely different life journey. For instance, thanks to my mother's years of meticulous care, Pei Song, who was only 178 centimeters tall in his previous life, now towers at 190 centimeters in this lifetime, becoming an existence beyond my reach. He is free-spirited and vibrant, full of passion, combined with his naturally sharp mind. No matter where he is placed, he shines as the most dazzling presence in any crowd. Our parents were happy to send us to experience and learn various skills. As a result, Pae-sung mastered basketball, horseback archery, boxing, martial arts, piano, violin, guitar, painting, rock climbing. He was versatile and excelled at everything, while I dabbled in everything but mastered nothing. In contrast to Pae-sung, I finally became a good-for-nothing who couldn't do anything. Just like last time, we started dating during university. The difference was, this time, it was him who relentlessly pursued me and wouldn't take no for an answer. After I finally agreed to be with him, he was like an excited puppy, eagerly handing me the jade pendant. "Xiao Xiao, you are the most important person to me," he said. "Because of me, he finally fell in love with this world," I said. "I came into this world just for you."